Chapter 2292. You're courting death. Hearing that Dustless was so arrogant, Yadamiwa could not tolerate it anymore. She waved her bat and smashed it at him without hesitation. Since Zhou Fangzuan's order was to capture Dustless alive, Yadamiwa did not go too far. Instead, she held back a little. Bang! The bat smashed toward Dustless's head, but a big hand came and easily caught the iron bat. Ka. Dustless exerted a little force, and the bat, which was as thick as a human arm, suddenly collapsed and shattered like a rotten wood. This guy, is he really strong? He doesn't look like it. He's just a gigolo. Looking at the shattered bat, Yadamiwa stared at Dustless's cold face and frowned. She felt like she had kicked an iron plate. Let's see how strong you are. However, Yadamiwa was a gangster after all, and Wailuo was also such a violent organization. He was not very smart and liked to solve problems with his fists. Therefore, he gently slid his skateboard and suddenly flew toward Dustless. His fist went straight toward Dustless's head. Trash. Seeing this, Dustless grinned and stared at Yadamiwa. He said indifferently, "Mokun, ka." The ground burst open, and then, a thick tree came out from the ground and changed according to Dustless's will. The tree, which was thicker than a human, condensed into an arm and punched toward Yadamiwa. You're underestimating me. Seeing this, Yadamiwa was not afraid at all. Her fist was covered with dark red flames, and she also punched out. Naive. Wu Chen couldn't help but cover his eyes. He didn't want to see the appearance of Hadamiwa being beaten up. This kid still had to contend with Mokutan. Although the power was unlimitedly weakened, it was not something he could contend with. Bang! The power of the wood-release giant fist was too great. It effortlessly sent Hadamisaki flying and she fell miserably more than 10 meters away. Bang! Kakaka! The glass on the opposite street had been smashed by him, and Hadamiwa was lying among the glass shards in a sorry state. You can beat up Meru? Looks like I underestimated you. Fu Jianbigu looked at Dustless with a gloomy expression. He was shocked. At first, he thought that this guy was just a pretty boy. His skin was white, and he was even prettier than a woman. He was definitely a flowery martial artist. Who would have thought that he would be so terrifying after being provoked? Come. Dustless laughed and waved his hand. He sneered, I want to see how you guys are going to beat me up. To be honest, I really want to be beaten up. Just you wait. Hearing this, Fu Jian was enraged. He held the scabbard with his right arm and said in a hoarse voice, Fu Jian, pull, swish. 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 Before he could completely pull out his sword, a flash of light came head-on, and Dustless's figure instantly appeared in front of Fujiaku, his right hand on his forehead, and his thumb gently flicked. Bang! This seemingly casual attack caused Fu Jianyuigu to be severely injured. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his body was sent flying. Ka. A deep hole was formed on the wall more than 10 meters away from him. He was lying in the hole with a pale face, unable to move his body. How can he be so strong? Fujiaku was stunned. He had never dreamed that he would be defeated in seconds, and his opponent was not even a king. An outsider? Why haven't I heard of this person before? Even if he is not a king, his strength is enough to compete with a king. Yadamiwa, who was arrogant a moment ago, took a deep breath and could not help but regret. The order given to him by Zhou Fangzuan was to capture Wu Chen alive. To put it bluntly, he was to bring Wu Chen back in one piece. However, at this moment, he had taken the initiative to provoke the other party. Provoking such a powerful enemy seemed to have brought great trouble to Wang Wuluo. What's wrong? Don't have the strength to stand up? Dustless walked in front of the two. His aura was calm and he was not affected in the slightest. However, Yadamiwa and Fujiaku were both panting heavily. They had obviously reached their limits. Who are you? Yadamiwa looked at Dustless in fear. Her tone was much more respectful. Her indifferent face was filled with endless coldness as if she was looking at an ant. The human heart is really ugly. Quietly looking down at Yadamiwa, Dustless completely ignored her ugly expression. I didn't mean to go against you guys before, but you guys took an inch and wanted a mile. What? Now that I've shown my strength and got beaten up, do you know that some people are not to be trifled with? What a wretch. Facing Dustless's sarcasm, Yada Miwa was embarrassed. However, Dustless did not go against them before. It was her who kept nagging and refused to let Dustless go. She wanted to make a big deal out of a small matter, which eventually led to this situation. Do you want to continue? Looking down at Yada Miwa and Fujiaku, Dustless said indifferently, small fries like you, 1 or 2, 10 or 100, are actually the same. It won't change anything. Don't be too arrogant. Hearing this, both of them were angry. They didn't know where they got the courage to attack from. It was as if a small universe had erupted. They attacked from different directions at the same time. You guys can be arrogant, why can't I? Dustless asked calmly. At the same time, both of his hands were aimed at the two of them. A ray of light quickly formed and shot straight out. Laser. Poochie. Poochie. The speed of the light was too fast. Yada Miwa and Fujiaku did not even have time to react before the light beam directly penetrated their bodies. It was only half an inch away from the position of their hearts. Plop. Both of them fell to the ground. Although Dustless was merciful and did not take their lives were already hanging by a thread. If no one cared, they would definitely die. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2293. Dustless smiled but did not say anything. As long as this guy did not provoke him, he would not be so bored as to argue with Keiichisubaru. At the end of the day, he was just a piece of trash. Other than the skill, Death Return, which was pretty good, his combat power was close to 0. However, Keiichisubaru always used his ability to challenge Dustless. He deserved to be beaten up. Well, although it's too much to say this at this time, please return the badge you stole to me. It's very important to me. Amelia walked up to Ferret and said apologetically. Looking closely, Master Rum was sweating profusely and grimacing in pain. There was a shocking wound on his abdomen. His intestines were cut open by Ilusa. It was a horrible sight. Even his internal organs were cut into pieces. With such a serious injury, there was no doubt that he would die. The injury is quite serious. I thought it was just a minor injury. Dustless walked over slowly and frowned. Give you the badge? Hearing this, Ferret suddenly stopped sobbing and said coldly, if it weren't for you uninvited guests, Master Rum wouldn't have been killed. Hey, are you kidding me? It was you who stole Amelia's badge. Is it wrong for us to come and ask for the badge? Her brows tightly knitted, Keiichisubaru asked with displeasure. But it's a fact that you guys killed Master Rum. Ferret still gritted his teeth and said with a face full of hatred. I'm sorry. This is indeed our responsibility. Amelia blamed herself and apologized. If they hadn't appeared, perhaps Ilusa would have left with the badge after paying the money. But because Amelia, the owner of the badge, had come, Ilusa had turned hostile. Hee. Keiichisubaru suddenly thought of something and smiled wretchedly. She pretended to sigh and said, Sigh. Wuchen, sometimes it's not good to be too observant. You see, you brought us here and caused the death of Master Luo Mu. You brat? Dustless could not help but turn his head. He thought that he was shameless enough, but compared to Keiichisubaru, he was not just a little bit worse. Obviously, Keiichisubaru was deliberately tricking him. It's you? It would have been better if he hadn't said anything. The moment he said that, Ferret, who was crying like a pear blossom, glared angrily at Dustless. I say, this old man isn't dead yet, right? You look at him as if I killed him. Dustless felt helpless. Soon after, he said meaningfully, if it wasn't for me, I'm afraid that all of you would have died. This is also the truth. Amelia nodded. Ilusa's strength was extremely powerful. If they were to rely on the few of them, they would definitely die. If it wasn't for Dustless taking action in time, they would definitely end up like Master Rum and be cut off by that female pervert. You're twisting words and forcing logic. But Keiichisubaru didn't buy it. She sneered, if you didn't bring us here, none of this would have happened. It's all your fault. You killed Master Luomu. Kaiue Subaru's voice was filled with tears as she complained about Dustless with hatred. To Kaiue Subaru, Dustless was her mortal enemy. Because before the return of death, she had been brutally killed by Dustless several times. Therefore, she hated Dustless to the core. Therefore, Kaiue Subaru would not let go of any opportunity to take revenge or frame him. I say you're crying so sadly. This old man can't be your biological father, right? Dustless teased. His words made Kaiue Subaru's face turn green with anger. Besides, this old man is still breathing. Who said that he's dead? Dustless asked indifferently. But his internal organs have been destroyed. Even his heart has been split. Even if he's still alive, how long can he last? Amelia shook her head and said, this kind of injury was too serious. Even she was helpless. Hee, Kaiue Subaru laughed sinisterly and said with disdain, maybe to Dustless, this kind of injury is not worth mentioning. He can easily treat it. Boy, you've been talking so much nonsense. You're right this time. I can indeed save Master Luomu. It's a piece of cake. Dustless looked calm and confident. Huh? Are you kidding me? Kaiue Subaru was stunned and sneered. His heart is destroyed. Can you save Master Luomu? Stop dreaming. If you can revive him, I'll call you Big Brother. No, Grandpa. My good grandson. Dustless grinned, full of ridicule. I haven't done it yet, and you're already calling me Grandpa. I'm flattered. You bastard, how dare you take advantage of me? Kaiue Subaru was so angry that he clenched his fists tightly. His knuckles cracked. What's wrong? Are you itching for a beating? Dustless was stunned. A strong killing intent rushed towards Kaiue Subaru. Phew! Kaiue Subaru's body suddenly felt like it had fallen into an ice cellar. His mind was controlled by his emotions. This guy in front of him was unreliable. Challenging him was just asking for humiliation. Can you really save Master Luomu? If you can do it, I can give you the badge. Ferret looked at Dustless nervously with a sincere face. Dustless. Amelia came over and pulled Dustless's clothes. She said gratefully, you saved my life. I'm already very grateful to you. But, Master Luomu. Amelia's voice sank at the end. Although she believed in Dustless's ability, how could he revive Master Luomu when his internal organs were destroyed? She could even see that Master Luomu's heart was shattered. If I can't save him, I'm your grandpa. Kaiue Subaru looked at Dustless with hatred and disgust. He did not have a good impression of this bastard who killed him 3 times. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 gifts plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2294. Wu Chun looked at Kai Yuezue indifferently. He was too lazy to talk nonsense with him. He thought that this kid was an idiot. Why should he talk nonsense with a retard? The injury is really serious. Staring at Master Rom, Dustless frowned slightly. His internal organs were badly mutilated. It's a miracle that he's still alive. Can he be saved? Ferret suddenly grasped Dustless's hands and asked anxiously. Master Rom can be regarded as her only family. It's just a small problem. Dustless smiled confidently, with a warm smile on his face, and immediately, under everyone's surprised gaze, he put his hands close to Master Rom's abdomen. His heart was damaged? Then let's create another one. This sounded inconceivable, but it wasn't much of a problem for Silver, who had mastered the yin-yang escape technique. Uzumaki Naruto once used yin-yang release to create a pair of eyes for Kakashi. Now, creating an intact heart is not a problem for Dustless. Buzz, his right hand suddenly erupted with a golden light, and then, under everyone's surprised gaze, this light nourished the badly mutilated body, and the broken part miraculously grew flesh again. Everyone was stupefied, especially Amelia. She covered her small mouth with her right hand and opened it so wide that a fist could fit in it. She looked at Wu Chen in disbelief. Amelia knows healing magic, but in the end, it's only used to treat skin injuries. Dustless is so heaven-defying that he can repair damaged organs. Is this something that a human can do? It's a miracle. Master Ram. Ferret saw the healed abdomen and the regenerated internal organs, and her heartbeat, which was about to stop, accelerated again. Ooh. Seeing that Dustless wasn't spouting nonsense, Ferret and Amelia both breathed a sigh of relief. To the two of them, this was the best ending. But someone didn't think so. Really cured? Seeing this, Keiichi Subaru was stunned. She stared at Wu Chen. Thinking of the promise she made before, she suddenly regretted it. Do I really have to call him Grandpa? Are you kidding me? Absolutely not. I'd rather die again. Kai Yuemao shook her head like a rattledrum. Calling him Grandpa Dustless would be better than calling him Grandpa Dustless. Especially with Amelia watching from the side, how could Kai Yuemao endure this? Don't you understand? Dustless glanced at Keiichi Subaru, who was in a dilemma, and sighed softly in his heart. No matter how many times you have been reincarnated, thousands or tens of thousands of times, in front of absolute strength, you have to bow down. Strength determined the gap between them. In any case, Keiichi Subaru was no match for Dustless. All right. About a few minutes later, Master Ram's damaged organs were all recreated by Dustless using yin-yang escape. He also used medical ninjutsu to inject a large amount of life force into the old man's pale cheeks. Thank you, benefactor. After Lord Rum regained consciousness, he bowed to Dustless without saying a word. Get up, it's just a small matter. Dustless smiled faintly. He knew that Master Ram's character was ferocious and frightening, but his nature wasn't bad. Earlier, when Amelia and the others were in danger, Master Ram clearly knew that the enemy was powerful, but he still acted without hesitation. Here you go. Ferret's small face also bloomed with a brilliant smile, very sunny, and bounced the badge to Dustless. Finally, I'm free. Looking at the exquisite badge in his hand, Wu Chen heaved a sigh of relief and immediately handed it to Amelia with a smile. Miss Amelia, I'll leave it to you to keep. It's time for me to leave. When his voice fell, Dustless shrugged, yawned, and turned to leave. His eyes were a little sleepy, and he really wanted to find a place to sleep. Right. Suddenly thinking of something, Dustless's footsteps suddenly stopped. His eyes looked around, and immediately frowned. Where did that kid go? You mean Subaru? Thinking of the grudge between them, Amelia immediately understood Dustless's intention. After all, there was also the bet just now. That kid tricked me 3 or 4 times. If I don't break his leg, I can't vent the hatred in my heart, Dustless said to himself. Break my leg. Hiding behind a rock, the corner of Kaiue Subaru's mouth twitched. When she was about to get up and run for her life, a flash suddenly appeared in front of her, and Dustless's body appeared. Fulfill the bet, or let me break one of your legs, choose one. Dustless smiled very kindly, but in Kaiue Subaru's eyes, it was more terrifying than a demon. Grandpa, forced into a corner, Kaiue Subaru finally opened her mouth in shame. The moment her voice fell, her whole face was bright red, as if it was on fire. She couldn't wait to find a hole to hide in. She had lost all her face. Dustless, I'll definitely tear you into pieces. Kaiue Subaru swore in her heart. Her cheeks were twisted. Come if you're not afraid of torture. Dustless turned his head and didn't say anything. Since he had already offended this kid, it didn't matter if he offended him completely. He wasn't afraid of him anyway. Wait. Just when Dustless was about to leave, Amelia suddenly stopped him and trotted in front of Dustless. She said embarrassedly, It's all my fault before. If you don't mind, you can stay in my house for a few days. Stay in your house? Dustless's face was full of confusion. After thinking for a while, he didn't seem to have anywhere to go. Okay then, I have nowhere to go anyway. Lucky guy. Seeing this, Kaiue Subaru was envious and jealous. Why wasn't she as lucky as Dustless? P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2295. Dustless didn't care about Keiichi Subaru's complicated expression. Since he had nowhere else to go, he might as well leave with Amelia. He didn't have much ambition, and there was nothing in this world that could tempt Dustless. All he wanted was to find a place to eat and fill his stomach. Even though Amelia was still prejudiced against him, she had let it go in the end. No matter what, finding a place to stay for the night was better than wandering alone. "Get out of here," Dustless scolded Kaituki Subaru. After all, Amelia didn't invite him to stay at her place. "Don't be a busybody." Amelia didn't even say anything. "Who are you to be so long-winded?" Glaring at Dustless, Kaituki Subaru shamelessly walked to Amelia and complained, "I'm lost and I can't remember the way home. Can I stay at your place for a while?" If it was an ordinary person, they wouldn't agree to let someone stay at their place, but Amelia was different. This innocent girl was too kind. "No problem, come back with us." Amelia's face bloomed with a gentle smile, like a blooming flower, intoxicating people. "Umph." Hearing this, Kaiyue Subaru nodded quickly. Then she glanced at Wu Chen valiantly and proudly, as if she was the winner. "This idiot, does he really think that it's good to stay at that pervert's house? Isn't it better to just casually find a place, get a wife without any worries, and live out the rest of your life in mediocrity? Why does he have to court death? That clown isn't easy to deal with. Kaituki Subaru, this idiot, is really brainless." As a transmigrator, he naturally knew what Amelia's so-called home was. It was the home of Rosvalo, Mazes, who was also the ruler of the border marquis. There was also a pair of sisters who were naturally dumb but very wary of others, Rem and Ram, and Beatrice, who was responsible for guarding the library. And Dustless also understood that the person who hired Elusa this time was actually Rosval Mazes. This guy was quite smart. He also knew the identity of Kaituki Subaru, knew that he came from another world, and also knew that Kaituki Subaru had the ability to change the world. It was worth mentioning that Rosvar held one of the Gospel and could predict the future to a certain extent. According to the hints of the Gospel, he knew that after slaying the dragon and getting the dragon's blood, he could resurrect his teacher, the Witch of Lust, who was also Rosvar's lover. He didn't even mind killing the most reliable person to resurrect the Witch of Lust. So Kaituki Subaru took the initiative to live with Rosvals as a matter of course. Since you don't want to live a leisurely life, then live a good life to live in hell. As well to stay was to stay as well as he was to stay, his stay with him. If he died, Dustless would also fall into his trap, which was extremely troublesome. That's why he felt that this kid was annoying. Wouldn't it be better for him to disappear peacefully? Why did he have to come out and seek death? Are you jealous of me? I'm telling you, Dustless, our battle has just begun, and I won't give Amelia to you. Kaituki Subaru leaned close to Dustless's ear and announced proudly. Is that so? Dustless was not angry. He glanced at Kaituki Subaru lightly and said, "To be fair, I'm really not interested in that silver-haired girl. I'm immune to young people's love. Compared with that kind of boring thing, I prefer to sleep. And if I want something, I can just grab it. Why should I care about other people's feelings? This is the privilege of the strong." "Then why are you still pestering Amelia?" Kaituki Subaru said unkindly. Wu Chen suddenly smirked twice and said sarcastically, "I'm not interested in her, but I don't want you to carry a beauty home even more. Living together with a good-for-nothing like you, it's really hard on her." "You. Wait and see." Kaituki Subaru's face turned red because of Dustless's words. This was a typical act of sabotage. Even if Dustless could not get something, he would not let Kaituki Subaru get it even if he smashed it. After about an hour's journey, Dustless and Kaituki Subaru followed Amelia to a magnificent villa. What a big house! Kaituki Subaru looked at the villa in front of him like a country bumpkin. Did I worry too much before? Looking at Kaituki Subaru's idiotic face, Dustless always felt that he had overestimated this kid. Just by looking at his appearance, he knew that this kind of idiot had been killed by someone. Who knew who the murderer was? Lady Amelia. In the luxurious hall, two sisters in maid uniforms stood respectfully in front of Amelia. Obviously, they were the servants of this mansion. The two sisters looked exactly the same. The only difference was that one of them had blue hair and blue eyes, while the other had pink hair and pink eyes. The one with blue hair seems to be Rem, and the pink one seems to be Lamu. Looking at the two sisters, Dustless showed a friendly and gentle smile. Although he was talking to himself, his words angered Kaituki Subaru, who had always been against him. Rem? Your mother? You bastard, are you scolding me? Dustless. Kaituki Subaru looked at Dustless angrily. This bastard dared to scold her most respected mother. It was unforgivable. Are you King kidding me? Dustless's mouth twitched. Finally, he helplessly covered his face. He really had to give in to this weirdo. There was no cure for him. No wonder he had been killed several times when he had just entered the other world. His IQ was really high. Could it be that the witch who summoned Kaituki Subaru is also blind? She found such a retard to make up the numbers. What a joke. Dustless complained in his heart. Kaituki Subaru's IQ was really unflattering. No wonder Dustless was judged as the most tragic male lead of the year before he had transmigrated. He had to be killed 5 or 6 times before he realized who was the one who had tricked him. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus more chapters, 3,000 rewards plus more chapters, 1,000 reviews plus more chapters, 500 automatic subscriptions plus more chapters. Chapter 2296. Although Dustless didn't know why these people valued him so much that they were willing to surround the entire Reed Academy to find him, he guessed that it was because he had almost killed Fu Jian. That was the only grudge he had with the King of Blue. Remember, search every teacher in this school one by one. Investigate their background, identity, and the location of their families, the head of ritual rites said solemnly. We cannot forgive the arrogant bastard who dared to provoke Scepter 4. We must make him understand the price he has to pay for provoking us. Make the enemy pay a heavy price. The declaration of the Ancestral Statue Rights Division was like the bugle horn before the attack. Everyone was impassioned, and everyone swore that they would capture the bastard who provoked them and torture him. Leader, isn't this a little too much? It's unwise to surround the school rashly. It's the same as the Red Clan. A beautiful woman frowned. Her name was Danjima Shiri, and she was a loyal member of the head of ritual rites. Shiri, do you think this is too much? The head of ritual rites' eyes flashed with wisdom. She smiled faintly and said, You must think that only Zhou Feng would act so rashly, but I have to tell you that I would do the same thing. That bastard almost killed our comrade. If we don't find him, who would look at Scepter 4 in the eye? This is a matter of dignity. I understand. Danjima Shiri nodded slightly. For a clan like Scepter 4, dignity was very important. They couldn't tolerate being humiliated. However, Dustless's actions were equivalent to slapping Scepter 4 in the face. Hey, are all these people here for me? To be honest, I'm flattered. I've only just arrived and I've already become the center of attention. On the deserted main road, a lazy voice suddenly struck and entered everyone's ears. This voice wasn't loud, but everyone heard it clearly because this person was too arrogant. However, it doesn't matter how many cats and dogs there are. It's meaningless. You're the leader of Scepter 4, the King of Blue from the Ancestral Right Division, aren't you? Dustless walked over step by step with his hands in his pockets and a gentle smile in his eyes. You dare to take the initiative to come to me? Dan Shirley looked coldly at Dustless, not bothering to hide his murderous intent. Their number 3, Fuji Arubigu, was almost killed by this guy. This guy actually dared to show his face in public. He was simply not afraid of death. Why don't you dare to come out? Dustless met Danjima Shiri's gaze. At first, I thought that you were here to thank me. After all, I spared Fujiwara's life. In my opinion, you should be grateful. If I had known that you would come to me like this, I would have chopped that guy into 8 pieces and hung his corpse at the entrance of Scepter 4. Everyone's expression changed when they heard this. Their hearts were in their throats. Even Danjima Shiri was stunned. This guy was too arrogant. He actually dared to talk about chopping Fuji Arubigu into 8 pieces in front of the Ancestral Right Division. Wasn't this a slap to the King of Blue's face? You're very good. The Ancestral Right Division's face was ashen. The veins on his arms were bulging. There was no doubt that he was enraged. If his opponent was a king, he could reluctantly accept it. After all, they were both kings. However, Dustless was just an outsider. What right did he have to challenge him? Are you surprised? Are you shocked? All along, you kings have been too arrogant. You can't accept being slapped in the face. You think it's a great humiliation, right? Dustless curled his lips in disdain. The corner of his mouth lifted into a mocking smile. I don't mind telling you that I didn't mean to call you a piece of trash. You're just one of the trash. I meant to tell you that all kings are just trash in my eyes. The moment he said this, everyone in Scepter 4 went numb. Their minds were in a mess. This guy was taking their lives as a joke. The kings were the representatives of supremacy. No one had ever dared to challenge them. And Dustless had insulted all the kings. He had offended all of them. This country could forget about living well in the future. The Ancestral Right Division didn't say anything. He used his next action to express everything. Ancestral Right Division, draw your sword. Clang. With an ear-piercing roar, the sword on the Ancestral Right Division's waist was unsheathed. Under the sunlight, the sharp sword was extremely dazzling. No one dared to look at it directly. Don't you want to come at me together? Wu Chen was calm and collected. His face didn't show any sign of loosening or fear from beginning to end. Enough. I can kill you alone. The Ancestral Right Division refused coldly. He stepped forward at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, the tip of his sword was about to pierce Dustless's throat. Die! The Ancestral Right Division roared. The sharp sword in his hand suddenly pierced forward. The tip of the sword was surrounded by azure waves. That was the power of a king that belonged only to him. It wasn't hard to see that the Ancestral Right Division really wanted to kill Dustless. Naturally, Dustless wouldn't show any mercy. Boom, boom, boom. An unparalleled aura erupted, like an ancient dragon that had just awoken. Just as the tip of the sword was about to pierce through Dustless's body, the Ancestral Statue Rights Minister, who was affected by this aura, suddenly paled and was sent flying. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2297. Time quickly passed. Dustless was sleeping very soundly. Even if someone tried to assassinate him, they might be able to succeed. When he woke up, Rem and Lam were standing in front of Dustless. You didn't assassinate me, and then my body automatically healed, right? Staring at the two sisters for a few seconds, Wu Chen seemed to be joking, but also seemed to be serious. Customer, you must be joking. Rem and Lam have been waiting for you to wake up. Why would we harm you? As the elder sister, Lam spoke first and glanced at Remington. Rem nodded and walked over with her clothes. She boldly lifted Dustless's blanket and saw Dustless's naked body without blushing at all. What are you doing? Dustless asked in surprise. Helping the customer put on his clothes. Lam also took Dustless's clothes and walked over. The two sisters looked at Dustless from both sides. No need. You can all leave. I can take care of this myself. Wu Chen waved his hand and immediately grabbed the clothes of the two sisters. One who was unaccountably solicitous was hiding evil intentions. Perhaps the two sisters felt that there was something wrong with him, so they made such an outrageous move to test him. Oh right. Suddenly thinking of something, Wu Chen looked at the two sisters without blinking and asked, You didn't hear bad things about me from Kai Yue Mao, did you? Customer, you must be mistaken. That customer named Kai Yueshu didn't say anything bad about you. On the contrary, he said a lot of good things about you. Rem's tone was filled with disdain, as if she was mocking Dustless's narrow-mindedness. That kid said good things about me? Dustless almost jumped up as if he was struck by lightning. His face was filled with disbelief. That Kai Yueshu wanted to kill him as soon as possible. How could he say good things about him? What did he say? Dustless ignored Rem's disdainful look. He really wanted to hear what Kai Yuemu said about him. He said that you are handsome and strong, and that you can defeat a group of strong people by yourself. He told us to think highly of you, and if possible, choose you as our spouse. Rem looked at Dustless seriously. He didn't look like he was mocking Dustless. What does that brat mean? Dustless wasn't happy at all. Instead, he couldn't help but frown. Why did Kai Yueshu suddenly change her temperament and help him pick up girls? This unrealistic idea was abandoned by Dustless at the first moment. Is there anything else? Dustless asked, feeling a little strange. There are still some. Lam lowered his head and thought for a while. Then he said that you defeated Ilusa, the gut hunter, and that you're very strong. You can destroy a town by yourself. The brat. So that's what he's doing. How is that a compliment? He's obviously trying to kill me. That good for nothing, his strength is average, but his ability to scheme is impressive. Dustless suddenly understood. At the same time, he looked at the two girls from the corner of his eyes. He could clearly feel that compared to before, the surveillance was much more obvious now. They were almost staring at Dustless, not letting go of any suspicious movements. Dustless was wondering why the two girls took the initiative to check his body. If he guessed correctly, they were trying to find some clues. Kai Yueshu exaggerated Dustless's strength. Rem and Lam would definitely think that Dustless was suspicious, so they kept a close watch on him. For example, they would watch him even when he was sleeping. They were digging a hole for Dustless to jump into. That brat. Dustless's eyebrows flickered, and he guessed in his heart, this ability of foresight, is it the skill of the samsara of death, again? For some things, Kai Yueshu always had the upper hand. According to Dustless's guess, it was the so-called rewind skill. He could get information about Dustless from infinite deaths. He really doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Does he think he's so great just because he has a golden finger? Dustless muttered, then he immediately put on his clothes and laughed secretly, but that brat's ability to transfer hatred is very good. I guess Kai Yueshu also knows that the two sisters are not good for him. After all, there's the smell of a witch. So he deliberately praised me and got close to Amelia. That's why the two sisters are watching me when I'm sleeping. In fact, the two sisters didn't kill him, which showed that they were still suspicious of Dustless. Lord Roswald has returned and invited the guests to have dinner together. The two sisters said seriously, and when they mentioned Roswald, their faces were respectful. I'm hungry, lead the way. Dustless smiled. Since he was here, he would meet the mastermind behind the scenes sooner or later. You'd better be sensible. It's a pity that such a beautiful villa doesn't have an owner. Looking at the gorgeous and pleasant courtyard, Dustless muttered to himself, and there was a trace of horrible murderous intent in his words. The restaurant used for dining with guests was brightly lit and extremely luxurious. It's so lively. Dustless, who was let in, looked around and found that everyone was ready except for him. You have a lot of face. It was fine if he didn't see Dustless, but when he saw Dustless, Kayatsuki Subaru said in a strange tone, if I didn't know, I would have thought that you were the owner of this house. Kayatsuki Subaru looked at Dustless very unscrupulously. Although he knew that Dustless was powerful, he was not afraid. He could rewind infinitely, which was equivalent to an immortal body. This kid is really self-righteous. Dustless was too lazy to care about Kayatsuki Subaru and sat down naturally. He was not a waste like Kayatsuki Subaru, so he didn't need to be restrained. This must be Dustless. Thanks to you, otherwise Lord Amelia would have fallen. Roswald, who was sitting at the head of the table, was dressed in a clown costume and looked at Dustless with gratitude. This guy really knows how to pretend, and he pretends so well, as if everything has nothing to do with him. Humans really do rely on tricks to survive. They are all great actors. Dustless smiled and didn't say anything. In fact, the person who hired Gut Hunter Ilusa was Roswald. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2298. This person's background was clearly extraordinary. Although he was extremely old and had white hair and beard, no one dared to underestimate him. Especially when he appeared and realized who this old man was, the ancestral statue religion minister's berserk aura dissipated. His expression changed slightly, and he looked at the old man respectfully and said, "It's been a long time since we last met. I didn't expect you to come in person." The old man did not speak. He just looked at the ancestral statue rites and nodded. Finally, he frowned and looked at Dustless. He was slightly deep, biting cold, and puzzled. "You don't have to look. You want to see through me, old man? I really don't mean to discourage you, but to me, you're too weak." After a long silence, Dustless withdrew his gaze from the Golden King. His eyes were calm. This guy. Does he really think he's made of diamonds? That he can withstand this old man's attack? Not to mention others, even the ancestral statue rites broke out in cold sweat. He could not help but give Dustless a thumbs up. He knew the Golden King's character very well. He was serious, meticulous, and could not be provoked. And most importantly, although the Golden King was old, he was still very strong. He was almost invincible among all the kings. It seems that there will be a fierce battle next. The ancestral statue rites was very sure that the Golden King was provoked. If he kept quiet, would he still be the invincible Golden King? Moreover, if he tolerated it today, there might be other kings who would challenge his dignity in the future. Some things, once set a precedent, the consequences would be unimaginable. Therefore, the ancestral statue rites was 100% sure that the Golden King and Dustless would have a fierce battle. When the time came, he could take the opportunity to deal with Dustless. "I'm old. I'm not as good as you young people." Just when everyone thought the situation was about to go out of control and it was likely to evolve into a battle between the kings, the Golden King's sudden words made everyone almost bite their tongues. Their expressions were extremely strange. Even the ancestral statue rites looked at the Golden King in disbelief. These words were undoubtedly admitting defeat. In his opinion, this old man had always fought. When had he ever bowed his head? But now he actually admitted defeat. Am I dreaming? Even the usually calm and wise ancestral rite division widened his eyes in horror. He stared straight at the Golden King, as if trying to see through his flaws, thinking that the old man was acting. When Dustless was careless, he would give him a fatal blow. But from the beginning to the end, the Golden King just looked at Dustless quietly, without the slightest sign of fighting. "Make it short. If you have something to say, just say it. Don't waste my time." Dustless waved his hand and said bluntly, "Although I'm also very leisurely, I'm not so bored as to chat with an old man. I'd rather sleep with the extra time. My reason for coming is very simple." Hearing this, the Golden King was not angry. He said seriously, "If you and Zhong Zhou fight, this city will inevitably suffer a devastating blow. My purpose here is very simple. I hope you can stop this duel. It was originally a small matter, so I hope you won't make a big fuss." "Destroy this city? Maybe." Dustless nodded thoughtfully and then said lightly, "But I can tell you clearly that before this city is destroyed, that kid will die on the spot. Don't think that others are made of mud, and don't overestimate yourself." The ancestral rite division's face turned red. How could he tolerate being looked down upon by Dustless? "Shut up, Zhong Zhou." The Golden King glared fiercely at the ancestral rite division and scolded, "Your subordinate is asking for humiliation. He clearly knows that he's not his opponent, but he still stubbornly challenged others. He's lucky that he wasn't killed. As a person, he should know his own limits. An ant should have the despair of an ant. He recklessly provoked someone stronger than him. Even if he was killed, who could he blame for that? But this guy is related to the Colorless King. He must know about the Colorless King. Fu Jian was just following the rules." The ancestral rite division said unwillingly, "He's not wrong, but this guy didn't cooperate at all. Instead, he hurt my people." "Rules?" Hearing this, Dustless sneered. "You're a king after all. Don't you know that rules only restrict the weak? Or let me ask you this. Will you obey the rules set by others? These are two different things. Don't talk nonsense." The ancestral rite division was really speechless after hearing Dustless's words. He didn't know how to refute Dustless. "Zhong Zhou, take your people and leave. This matter ends here." The Golden King was expressionless, and his tone had a hint of supreme command. Boom boom boom. As soon as he finished speaking, the Golden King's aura burst out, surging like a raging wave. It was unstoppable and swept across the entire place. Everyone's expression changed drastically, and their bodies began to sway. The Ancestral Right Division's expression changed drastically. His breathing was a little hurried, and there were bean-sized beads of sweat on both sides of his temples. Do you know the difference now? The Golden King's tone was indifferent. He looked at the Ancestral Right Division, and his eyes were extremely threatening. They were as dazzling as the sun, and no one dared to look at him directly. The Ancestral Right Division was naturally unconvinced. He tried his best to straighten his back and looked at the Golden King. I won't. The Ancestral Right Division's words stopped abruptly because the Golden King pointed in the direction of Dustless. He also looked over, and his pupils suddenly shrank. He was immediately terrified. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2299. Agreed? It shouldn't be, he should have directly rejected Dustless. Kayatsuki Subaru was confused and couldn't help but curse in his heart. Why didn't I think of becoming the housekeeper of this family? It's really a mistake. I will be commanded by this guy in the future. Looking at Dustless's smiling face, Kayatsuki Subaru was depressed, and his back was a little cold. He had been plotting against Dustless before, and now this guy had seized the opportunity. He would certainly not let him go easily. Don't think that I'm easy to bully. At worst, we will all die together. Looking up at Dustless, Kayatsuki Subaru's eyes were full of resentment and hatred, thinking that he was tricked by Dustless because he was one step behind. But Kayatsuki Subaru had no chance to turn back at this moment. After all, what was done could not be undone. Time passed quickly, and the dinner gradually came to an end. Everyone had different complicated thoughts, although they were still talking and laughing during the dinner, but in fact, they were already divided. Roswald first hated Dustless, and so did Kayatsuki Subaru. The two were destined to fight to the death. After all, before the samsara of death, he was slaughtered by Dustless countless times, and even his body was fed to the dogs. Kayatsuki Subaru had been burying this deep hatred in his heart, so he always targeted Dustless in all aspects. The two were destined to be enemies like fire and water. Gulp. After eating and drinking, Kayatsuki Subaru lay on the chair and rested comfortably, during which he also chatted with Amelia, but she was cold and indifferent. As for why, Kayatsuki Subaru knew that it was because he had falsely accused Dustless before, and after the truth came out, Amelia was somewhat alienated from him, and Dustless also saved her, so Amelia's impression of Dustless had greatly changed. But even so, Kayatsuki Subaru was not the kind of person who would give up easily. Even if he lost a round, it was impossible for him to give up and admit defeat. After all, Kayatsuki Subaru had always been convinced that he was a man with a protagonist aura, a visitor from another world, and Dustless was nothing to him. Haha, Kayaya Subaru belched contentedly. When she was about to go back to her room to rest, Wu Chen's angry voice came from the opposite side. You scum, why don't you go and clean up the table for me? You want to sleep after eating? Are you a pig? Why? After being stunned for a moment, Kayue Subaru asked. Didn't you just say that you want to be a servant in this family? Isn't it your job to clean up the bowls? Dustless gloated. You win. Hearing this, the corner of Keiichi Subaru's mouth twitched violently. Unknowingly, he seemed to have dug a big hole for himself. I'll play you to death slowly in the future. Don't think that having an immortal body is a good thing. Dustless sneered and left. A thick killing intent flashed across his face. Before leaving, he did not forget to look coldly at Roswald. Time flew by like a white horse. In the blink of an eye, a few hours had passed. The sky was completely dark. In the dead of the night, the stars in the sky were beautiful, but there was an indescribable silence. What do you think of those two people? In the quiet study, Roswald stared at the quiet night sky. Contrary to the casual and natural clown during dinner, Roswald's eyes were deep now, like bottomless stagnant water. Just by looking at this expression, one would know that he was a cunning opponent. Both of them are dangerous. Ram bowed his head and pondered for a while, and immediately said with caution, Dustless is very powerful and unfathomable, and that Kai Yuezwa looks silly, but actually wants to deliberately get close to Lady Amelia. Both of them are very suspicious. What you said makes sense, but I think that Dustless is more dangerous. Roswald's eyes narrowed slightly, emitting a dangerous light. Then do you want to? Rum didn't continue to say more. The meaning of the action of cutting his throat was self-evident. That's not necessary. Roswald shook his head gently. He still had a vague understanding of Dustless's strength. After all, even the gut hunter, Ilusa, who was previously hired, was crushed. If Ram went to challenge Dustless alone, the result would definitely be the same. Then how do we deal with Dustless? Such a dangerous guy will have an accident in all likelihood. Rum frowned and asked. Her killing intent also disappeared. She had never refused Roswald's orders and obeyed unconditionally. Just find a way to get him away. There is no need to fall out with him, but this matter needs to be done carefully. You should understand that Lady Amelia is a grateful person. Dustless saved her, so she must be very grateful. Finding a groundless reason to drive away Dustless is definitely not going to work. Lady Amelia will definitely not be willing. Roswald analyzed wisely, but in fact he was also having a headache. When it came to Dustless, there was nothing he could do. To Roswald, Dustless was like a hedgehog with spikes all over his body. If he approached Dustless rashly, not only would he not get any benefits, but he would also be stabbed by Dustless and the whole plan may fail. However, although Roswald was unwilling to be an enemy of a jinx like Dustless, some people did not think so. Just like in the original work, in front of Dustless's room, an uninvited guest appeared at this moment with a scary meteor hammer in his hand. Without a doubt, the only person who could wield this weapon was Remington. The meteor hammer was dragged on the ground, emitting a terrifying ka-ka-ka sound. It sounded extremely oppressive and frightening. If it was that idiot Kai Uemu, he might have already been knocked down. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2300. The girl that came into view was wearing the school uniform of Reed Academy. She looked to be about 17 or 18 years old. She had short hair and a cute face. Although she wasn't devastatingly beautiful, she could still be considered a beauty. Her figure was also quite good, and she had a curvaceous figure. Don't look. Seeing that Dustless was in a daze, Kat was annoyed. She hugged him from behind and used her white hands to block Dustless's eyes. You can't walk when you see a beautiful woman. You're really lousy. Don't tell me I'm not as good looking as this guy. Kat hugged Wu Chin tightly. Her cleavage squeezed onto his body and became a round pancake shape. Little girl, what nonsense are you talking about? Dustless snorted and took Kat's little hand away. After confirming that he did not see wrongly, he asked, Student, your name is Shui Ranju, right? Teacher, you know me? Shui Ranju was stunned for a moment. She immediately apologized embarrassedly. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bump into you. It was an emergency, no need to apologize. If you have something to do, go do it. Dustless showed a gentle smile and then left. In the quiet teaching building, Dustless and Kat walked side by side. By the way, remember not to be alone in the future. Be careful, do you hear me? Suddenly thinking of something, Dustless said to Kat seriously, If there's nothing, don't leave my side. Are you interested in me? Kat blinked her eyes playfully and looked at Dustless with great interest. Her face was full of expectation. If your butt was a little more perky, your chest a little bigger, your temper a little better, and you weren't always so naughty, maybe I would reluctantly lower myself to look at you a few more times. If I'm in a good mood one day, I might really like you. Staring at Kat again and again, Dustless's words hit her so hard that her face turned red. Even if you like me, I don't want you. Kat hugged her chest and snorted with a face full of displeasure. Let's get down to business. Although King Colorless is afraid of me, you still have to be wary of him, understand? Dustless was too lazy to talk nonsense with the girl. He said seriously, don't be alone, especially when that guy has the ability to invade your body. I can easily drive him out of my body, but if he invades your body, I can't do anything. I can only kill you or wait for him to come out. I understand. Hearing Dustless's serious tone, the cat nodded seriously. The other place was the Kusanagi Izumos bar, which was where Veda Willow usually gathered. To a certain extent, this was Veda Willow's headquarters. However, unlike usual, there were only a few people in this bar, including Danji Mashiri, Ancestral Statue Rights Division, and Fuji Arubigu. On Feiwa's side, there were Zhou Fangzuan, Chana, Kusanagi Izumo, and the others. You took the initiative to look for me? That's rare. Are you here for a fight? Zhou Fangzuan lit a cigarette and looked at the Ancestral Statue Rights Division casually. Not really. To be honest, fighting with people like you is always boring. Every time it ends in a draw. Also, you know the state of your sword of Damocles, right? The Ancestral Statue Rights Division said slowly. Immediately, his gaze became incomparably deep, and there was a trace of unwillingness in his tone. I came here this time to pass you an order. Is this a joke? Pass us an order? Since when did the one in blue become our immediate superior? The corner of Hata Misaki's mouth raised, revealing a disdainful smile. Misaki, there's no room for you to interrupt. Fuji Arubigu also showed a disdainful expression. Seeing this, everyone shook their heads. They all knew that these two were sworn enemies. You're mistaken. I said to pass you an order. I didn't say it was my order. I'm just passing on a message. The Ancestral Statue Rights Division shook his head lightly. He didn't get angry, as if Hata Misaki wasn't worth his attention. Someone else's order? Zhou Fangzuan stepped on the cigarette butt and said with a trace of ridicule, since when did you become someone else's lackey? From a king to a lackey, your status dropped really fast. Although Zhou Fangzuan was usually a man of few words, he wasn't bad at scolding people. It's true that I'm his lackey, but aren't you too? The Ancestral Statue Rights Division maintained his elegance and calmness. His eyes were as calm as water, without the slightest ripple. You mean, hearing the Ancestral Statue Rights Division's words, Zhou Fangzuan raised his eyebrows. He had already vaguely guessed who it was, but he still asked with some uncertainty, that old man? Who else is there besides him? The strongest king, Golden King. Looking at the ceiling, the Ancestral Statue Rights Division exhaled heavily with a trace of displeasure. It seems that you've met, and you've probably lost. There were some ripples in Zhou Fangzuan's tone. Although he was arrogant and had confidence in everything, but in the face of the Golden King, courage alone was useless. That was the difference in strength. That old man is really old. I remember that he's more than 90 years old, right? Zhou Fangzuan shook his head with a rare trace of helplessness. He lowered his head and said, he's so old, but his temper seems to be hotter than us young people. What did he ask you to tell me? The content is very simple. The Ancestral Statue Rights Division's face changed slightly, and his unwillingness became more obvious. He doesn't allow us to find trouble with that Dustless. Why? Zhou Fangzuan frowned and asked, what's the relationship between the two of them? I'm not sure. The Ancestral Statue Rights Division shrugged and added, this is an absolute order. If we dare to make a move on Dustless, that guy will personally come and find trouble with us. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2301. As soon as the voice of the Ancestral Statue Rights fell, the noisy scene suddenly became silent. Everyone looked at each other. They did not expect the high and mighty Golden King to give such an order. What was so special about Dustless? Everyone could not figure it out. That guy called Dustless, what is so special about him that the Golden King thinks so highly of him? I really don't understand. He is not one of the kings. Why does the old man think so highly of him? He is even willing to fall out with all the kings. Zhou Fangzuan's face was gloomy and ugly. He, who had always been quiet, suddenly became talkative. I don't know. But don't underestimate that guy. The eyes of the ancestral statue Rites shone with a cold light. In terms of strength, he may surpass you and me. Once he fights with that guy, he may destroy this city. That's why the old Golden King stopped us from finding trouble with him. Zhou Fangzuan just snorted. I am the Red King. That old man is the Golden King. I am not a member of his clan. I don't need to listen to his orders. You haven't changed at all, Zhou Fangzuan. The ancestral statue Rites was calm. He looked at Zhou Fangzuan quietly as if he had expected him to say that. I have passed the message to you. Goodbye. The ancestral statue Rites did not want to say more. He knew Zhou Fangzuan's character. He would not give up his plan just because of the Golden King's order. Zhou Fangzuan valued his companions very much, especially Toshiro. He was an elder who had been following him. How could he give up just because of the Golden King? Dream on. Wait, ancestral statue. Zhou Fangzuan suddenly turned his head and looked at the ancestral statue Rites. He asked coldly, You mean, that guy called Dustless is in Reed Academy, right? That's right. The ancestral statue Rites nodded and left without saying a word. I'm going to meet that guy. Zhou Fangzuan lit another cigarette and took a puff. A light flashed in his eyes. Are you sure? The ancestral Rite division stopped and looked at the serious Zhou Fangzuan, then looked at Kusanagi Izumo, Sinming Anna, and the others. Do you plan to bring all your clan members? No. I alone am enough. Zhou Fangzuan's words were shocking, causing everyone to look at him in astonishment. If it's really as you said, that guy is really strong. He's not a king, but he's stronger than a king. Even if I bring the others, it won't be of any use. Zhou Fangzuan was unexpectedly calm as he said calmly, So, I plan to meet him personally. Although that guy isn't the one who caused Tatsuya's death, he is the only one who has seen the colorless king. There are some things I must ask him. Take care of yourself. Good luck. After giving Reverend Zhou a deep look, the ancestral statue Rites division didn't waste any more words and quietly left. Finally, he closed his eyes. From the very beginning, the ancestral Rite division had no intention of succeeding. He understood Zhou Fangzuan too well. He would not give up just because the enemy was too strong. He would only stand his ground until the end. Therefore, the Golden King's order could not restrain Zhou Fangzuan at all. Even if he had to pay with his life, he would avenge his companions. Reed Academy. Ever since Dustless became a teacher here, life had not been as leisurely as before. There were always some students with weak bodies who came to the health room. The weather was gradually getting colder. There were all kinds of serious illnesses. Although Wu Chen had never been a doctor, he was quite handy in dealing with some small illnesses. It was also easy to solve them. Boom, boom, boom. Just then, a violent explosion swept across the area, as if there was an earthquake. The entire teaching building shook violently, and almost all the glass shattered. This entrance is really rough, but it suits your personality. Dustless walked to the window and saw a red-haired man walking over alone from afar. The corner of his mouth curled into a faint smile. This person was Zhou Fangzuan. Without a doubt, he was definitely here to cause trouble for Dustless. He was the only one who knew about the colorless king. Meow, meow, meow. The cat came out of nowhere and rested its head on Dustless's shoulder. Didn't that domineering old man say that all the kings are not allowed to disturb us? That may be the case, but there are always exceptions to everything. Dustless answered casually. At the same time, he jumped out of the window and looked straight at Zhou Fangzuan, who was walking slowly toward him. You can fly. Zhou Fangzuan's calm eyes rippled. He looked rather shocked, but it quickly disappeared. You've made such a big commotion. Can I take it that you're here to cause trouble? The Red King, Zhou Fangzuan. With both hands in his pockets, Dustless kept a smile on his face. You're right to think so, but I'm not here to fight. Zhou Fangzuan put out the cigarette in his hand and looked Dustless in the eyes. He said calmly, I just think that with such a big commotion, our next conversation should go smoother. You're such a violent guy. Dustless touched his chin and stared at the teaching building that was destroyed by Zhou Fangzuan. This kind of greeting gift is really annoying. Hearing this, Zhou Fangzuan didn't say anything. He just stared straight at Dustless. Although he didn't say anything, his eyes were guarded against Dustless. His eyes were full of caution. Your little brothers are here. Suddenly looking at a few figures in the distance, Dustless reminded him. It was Hatamiko, Kusanagi Izumo, and a gothic lowly girl named Anna. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2302. Zhou Fangzuan wasn't as happy as expected when he saw his followers. Instead, he frowned and said with dissatisfaction, "Who asked you to come? Go back now. If we let our king fight alone, then we're not qualified to be his allies." Hatamiko smiled and said casually, "If the other clans know about this, they'll definitely scold us for being deserters." "That's right. If we let you fight alone, those people in blue will laugh at us again, Fangzuan." Kusanagi Izumo nodded with a smile and looked at Dustless like a hawk. "It doesn't matter to me, but it doesn't matter how many people come." Dustless shrugged casually under everyone's gaze. It was as if it didn't matter how many people came. His words were filled with disdain. "Also, instead of thinking about how to defeat me, why don't you think about how to defeat that Golden King? You guys ignored his orders. That old man must be very angry." Dustless squinted his eyes and said with a mocking tone, "You don't have to worry about that." Zhou Fangzuan looked at Dustless indifferently and said in a deep voice, "About your relationship with the colorless king, are you going to tell us yourself, or do we have to do it?" "Let's do it. I'm just asking for a beating." Dustless grinned. Everyone's expression changed when they heard what he said. This guy was indeed a freak among freaks. Who said that he was asking for a beating? Actually, if you're willing to lower your heads and beg me, I might really tell you some information about the colorless king if I'm in a good mood. However, you've chosen the wrong path. You actually want to use force to coerce me. I've always been amenable to coaxing but not coercion. After saying that, Dustless disappeared without a trace. Where did he go? Everyone was greatly astonished. They looked left and right to search for traces of Wu Chen. Why did he disappear like a ghost? "Be careful!" Zhou Fangzuan yelled and looked at Anna. She was the weakest in terms of combat power. "Fudge! Behind you!" Zhou Fangzuan reminded her loudly. Suddenly, he saw a black shadow floating behind Anna. Such a beautiful little girl, how could I be willing to destroy such a beautiful flower? On the other side, behind Zhou Fangzuan, a ghostly whisper suddenly came. That was just an afterimage created by moving too fast. "My target is still you, King of Red, Zhou Fangzuan." Good timing. Hearing this, venerable Zhou Fangzuan did not even turn his head. He stomped his feet on the ground, and a cracking sound spread out. Then, his body was like a flamethrower, and a large number of flames burst out. Boom boom boom. The demonic crimson flame burned fiercely. Even steel would be melted in an instant. The black shadow behind Zhou Fangzuan was the first to be affected. No matter who it was, as long as they were hit by this flame, they would either die or be injured. Ha! Suddenly Yata Miwa laughed. Suddenly, she noticed that the black shadow behind Zhou Fangzuan disappeared. Her eyes shone brightly and she laughed proudly. This kid was so arrogant before. Now, there isn't even a corpse left. I really don't understand why the King of Gold values such a trash. Looking up, there was nothing behind Zhou Fangzuan, only the scorched ground. Isn't it too simple? Kusanagi Izumo frowned. In his impression, Dustless was unfathomable. His strength was overwhelming. Now, he was killed by Zhou Fangzuan in one move. This situation was too unusual. It could even be said to be strange. Look! Anna suddenly pointed to the sky. Looking at the golden light in the sky, it was like countless fireflies dancing in the sky. For a moment, she said absent-mindedly, "So beautiful." At the same time, everyone was aware of the changes in the sky. These strange golden lights were really intriguing. Even in the face of Zhou Fangzuan's flame, they were safe and sound. "King? I can barely see it." A ripple suddenly splashed in the void. Dustless's ethereal voice came again. Yadamiwa, who was laughing, was stunned. She immediately scolded angrily, "Coward, why are you hiding? Don't you dare to fight with Mr. Fangzuan? I've always been above you." Dustless's indifferent voice came again. Then, the golden lights all over the sky gathered together and condensed into a human body. Immediately, Dustless stepped out of it safe and sound. What a powerful ability! The faces of the members of Yada Willow changed drastically. He was clearly hit by Zhou Fangzuan, but he was unharmed. How hard was his body? Your Akashi clan seems to be very good at playing with fire. What a coincidence! In fact, I'm also very good at playing with fire. Dustless suddenly laughed. Then, under everyone's gaze, he quickly formed a few hand seals. Fire release, grand fire annihilation. The earth-shattering fire spat out from Wu Chen's mouth. The area it covered was really amazing. It had a diameter of 10 to 20 meters. It was like a group of flames rushing over, like an endless sea of fire. What a joke! Zhou Fangzuan and the others gasped when they saw this incredible sea of fire. Such a big movement in the blink of an eye. This was too dreamy. Let's resist it together. Kusanagi Izumo and Yadamiwa looked at each other and immediately appeared in front of Zhou Fangzuan. In an instant, all the pores on their bodies opened and a large number of flames rushed out. The three of them were like fire men, wrapped in flames. You overestimate yourselves. Dustless's expression was indifferent. No matter how the three of them joined forces, everything was fragile under the grand fire annihilation. No matter how many ants could stop the tiger's footsteps. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2303. Boom, boom, boom. A large amount of high-density flames erupted from their bodies. 3 pairs of fists suddenly punched out. 6 thick fire dragons soared into the sky and blasted into the sea of fire. Bang, bang, bang. 2 ferocious flames suddenly collided with each other. Countless sparks flew in all directions. The ground was scorched black. Even the invisible sky was burned red. The originally blue world turned red in an instant. This sky is so strong. Zhou Fangzuan and the other 2 looked at each other. Although they were in such a hot environment, their hearts were still cold. There was even a bone-piercing chill flowing down their backs. The churning sea of fire moved forward at full speed. Even though they tried their best to resist, they were still pushed back by a powerful force. The ground they stepped on drew 3 lines. The 3 of them were constantly pushed back. Looks like you guys are struggling. Dustless laughed unscrupulously. When he was about to open his mouth to mock them, he suddenly found a pair of cold eyes looking at him. He turned his head and couldn't help but be startled. Anna, quickly leave here. You are not that guy's opponent. Zhou Fangzuan's tone had a rare hint of reprimand. The person who was secretly looking at Dustless was the little princess of Vedawo, Sinming Anna. Little girl, what can I do for you? Dustless touched his chin and stared at this cute lowly girl. He was really embarrassed to make a move. After all, he wasn't an evil person. Sinming Anna in front of him was just an 11 or 12-year-old girl. I am from the same clan as you. I will definitely help them. Sinming Anna looked at Dustless very seriously. It seemed that she wanted to see where the flaws were. Your courage is praiseworthy. However, this is a game played by adults. Children, back off. Glancing at Sinming Anna, Dustless said very impolitely. However, the little girl was unexpectedly stubborn. She obviously ignored Dustless's words. She stood still and continued to look at Dustless. Fighting doesn't seem to be your strong suit. Dustless raised his eyebrows slightly. After carefully looking at Sinming Anna for a moment, he slowly said, Children should sleep obediently. The moment his voice fell, Dustless's eyes became scarlet 3-tomo Sharingan. Bastard, what do you want to do? Seeing Wu Qin staring at Sunming Anna expressionlessly, the three of them became nervous, especially Zhou Fangzuan. He looked at Wu Qin with a ferocious expression. If it wasn't for the endless sea of fire in front of him that couldn't be crossed, he would have already flown over to beat Wu Qin up. Nothing, I just let this little girl sleep for a while. Wu Qin answered casually. Then he blinked his eyes and a majestic eye power invaded Sunming Anna's mind through eye contact. Puff! Sun Anna's bright eyes instantly dimmed, as if her soul had been sucked away. Soon after, under the gazes of several people, she collapsed to the ground, unable to withstand a single blow. Bastard! Seeing this, several people suddenly became very nervous and stared at Dustless fiercely. You can't even protect yourselves, and you still have the mood to worry about others? Dustless asked softly, worthy of being a member of the same organization, you really have deep feelings. Who asked you to trouble me? You are destined to pay the price. Dustless suddenly lifted his right foot, the light shined, making people unable to open their eyes. Light speed kick. The straight light rushed out, like an unstoppable torrent, straight into the sea of fire. Boom boom boom. The light burst open, the sea of fire was instantly kicked out, setting off a violent impact. Zhou Fangzuan and others were naturally affected, their internal organs trembled fiercely. After fiercely vomiting blood, their body flew out upside down. Bang! Even if they were blown away, and their heads were bleeding, they still stood up tenaciously. Your strength is average, but you are extremely durable. Dustless nodded and said, and immediately with a swoosh, his figure disappeared again. Damn guy, if you have the guts, then fight with us face to face. What's the point of hiding? No matter how powerful you are, I despise you and look down on trash like you. Hadamiko was furious. Dustless's speed was too fast, too unscientific, and human eyes could not see it at all. Therefore, she could only try to provoke Dustless. It would be best if Dustless was willing to take the initiative to come out. Blindly speaking arrogant words will only make you look more fragile. I am very curious. You clearly know the difference in strength, but you still challenge me without fear of death. Your inexplicable confidence is really admirable. I don't know if it is appropriate to praise you for your courage or to say that you are ignorant. Dustless's low voice sounded again. Zhou Fangzuan, Kusanagi Izumo, and Hadamiko looked at each other and shook their heads. Just like before, they could not find any trace of him. You brat, you are the most arrogant. You will be eliminated first. Dustless suddenly appeared behind Hadamiko and grabbed his head with his big hand. I found you. At this moment, Hadamiko suddenly turned around and the flames on her body surged. She compressed it into a flaming iron rod and smashed it at Dustless. Bang! The iron rod hit Dustless's head, and a ka-ka-ka sound was suddenly heard, as if the skull was broken. Gulp. However, Hadamiko was not happy because the thing that was broken was her iron rod. On the other hand, Dustless was intact and looked at her coldly. Get lost. Dustless lifted his foot and kicked Hadamiko's right face without hesitation. Bang! This kick was merciless. The right side of Hadamiko's face was badly mutilated, and even a few of her teeth were broken. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2304. Get lost. Dustless lifted his leg and kicked Hadamiko's right face without hesitation. Bang! This kick was merciless. The right side of Hadamiko's face was badly mutilated, and even a few of her teeth were broken. Oh no, we've really kicked an iron plate this time. Maybe we should take the advice of Blue Shirt. We shouldn't recklessly find trouble with this guy, or maybe join forces with them. Kusanagi Izumo's face changed drastically. Fear and anxiety appeared on his handsome face. Dustless's strength made him feel despair. Even Zhou Fangzuan was suppressed. It could even be said that Zhou Fangzhuan was crushed. It's useless to regret. There's only one path in front of us. Either we step over this guy's body, or he steps over our heads. Zhou Fangzhuan looked straight at Dustless. His fighting spirit was boiling, and there was madness in his red eyes. I'm used to being invincible. It's interesting to suddenly have an opponent that I can't surpass. Zhou Fangzhuan, who was always cold, suddenly sighed with emotion. Is that so? Then I'll shatter your invincible legend. Will you be happy if I understand it this way? Dustless squinted his eyes, and there was a frightening light flickering in his eyes. That will have to wait until you defeat me. Zhou Fangzhuan suddenly roared, and a large amount of flames soared out of his body. Boom, boom, boom. These ferocious flames wrapped around Zhou Fangzhuan's body, and they were also impactful. Kusanagi Izumo, who was the closest to him, was suddenly sent flying. Are you going to give it your all? Fangzhuan. Kusanagi Izumo stood up awkwardly and stared at Zhou Fangzhuan solemnly. Obviously, he was also forced into a dead end. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gone all out against Dustless. Swoosh, swoosh. An inexplicable tremor came from the void, and the sky suddenly darkened. Looking up, a huge red sword was floating in the sky, hovering above Zhou Fangzhuan. Is he trying to drag me to hell? What an ambition! Looking up at the sky, Dustless's pupils shrank. He looked at the broken sword. There were cracks everywhere, and dust was constantly falling off. It was as if the sword could collapse at any time. The sword of Damocles? Dustless muttered in a low voice. He suddenly thought of something and raised his head to look at Zhou Fangzhuan. He could not help but look at him in a new light. You can't be thinking of threatening me, right? As soon as he finished speaking, Dustless stared at Zhou Fangzhuan. Indeed, he was no different from the rumors. The King of Red, Zhou Fangzhuan, was not afraid of death at all. You don't have to look at me. You guessed right. Zhou Fangzhuan responded faintly and said seriously, the power of the sword of Damocles falling down, can you block it? Honored one. When he said this, the first person whose expression changed was not Dustless, but Kusanagi Chuyun. The meaning of this was very simple. It meant that they would perish together. What a crazy man. Dustless opened his mouth in panic. He looked scared, but there was a casual smile on his face. Although the idea is good, I'm sorry, you won't have the chance. Dustless said with a chuckle. His eyes narrowed slightly, and the scarlet eternal Mangekyo Sharingan was exposed. The surging eye power spread out unstoppably. This kind of eye again. Seeing the evil eye, Zhou Fangzhuan's expression changed slightly. It was this kind of eye that had swept over Anna, and she had fainted inexplicably. Zhou Fangzhuan, you also sleep for a while, Tsukuyami. As soon as his voice fell, Dustless activated his eye power, and a majestic mental force invaded Zhou Fangzhuan's mind. Plop. After a while, like Anna, Zhou Fangzhuan also fell to the ground. It was so inexplicable, as if he was an actor used to act. It was too fake. Honored one. Kusanagi Chuyun was shocked and hurriedly came up to grab Zhou Fangzhuan. After discovering that he still had a heartbeat and breathing, his hanging heart relaxed. At the same time, the sword of Damocles floating in the sky also disappeared, and everything seemed to have returned to normal. What did you do to Honored One? Kusanagi Chuyun gloomily locked onto Dustless, but the latter just put his hands in his pockets and didn't even look at Zhou Fangzhuan, as if he was an insignificant person. Take your people and get lost. The difference is too great. The next time you appear in my sight, you will bear the consequences. Dustless obviously had no intention of answering. He turned around and left without saying a word from beginning to end. Kusanagi Jiyun was infuriated when he saw Wu Chen looking down on Fei Wuo. He shouted, "You're just someone who used underhanded means to defeat an exalted. If you have the guts, then fight me fair and square." Insidious means? Maybe, but didn't anyone tell you that insidious means are also a part of strength? Dustless's voice echoed in his ears, neither happy nor angry, as if defeating the so-called king was just a small matter, not worth celebrating. This time, I really lost completely. Looking up at the sky, Kusanagi Chuyun was hesitant and sad. He was obviously not the king, but a pure outsider. Why was the powerful king unable to withstand it? Could it be like what the ancestral religion division said, that the Golden King was also afraid of him? Suddenly turning his head and looking at Dustless's back, Kusanagi Chuyun suddenly felt that he was very far away. It seemed like he was just an inch away, but if he really chased after him, it would be a long distance that couldn't be covered even in a few centuries. Seeing Dustless leaving, Kitty also followed. Unlike Kusanagi Chuyun, who was naughty by nature, she made a face and trotted after him. In the quiet scene, only Kusanagi Chuyun and his 3 unconscious companions were left. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2305. Do I have to find an explanation? Seeing the crowd glaring at him, Wuchen raised his eyebrows slightly. This burning gaze was like a blade, piercing his skin to the point where he felt a little stinging pain. Is there a reason? Dustless muttered to himself and pointed at the gray puppy at Rem's feet. He's so ugly and stupid. Can I not like him? Dustless was helpless when he came up with such a weird reason because he really did not have a suitable excuse. Even if he said that this puppy was extremely dangerous and had something to do with the witch sect, no one would believe him. You! Rem was instantly enraged when he heard that. He glared at Dustless angrily. It was obvious that he was deliberately looking for trouble. Oh, woo! At that moment, the gray puppy at Rem's feet roared. It bared its teeth as if to say, "You're uglier than me. This is interesting. A mere animal dares to challenge me." Dustless's eyes turned cold as he strode over with his head held high. Stop, Remington. However, before he could take 2 steps, Rem stood in front of Dustless like a city wall. The group of children also surrounded him, their faces filled with anger and hostility. Seriously? I surrender, okay? Dustless shook his head and said bluntly, "If I say that this stupid dog has something to do with the witch sect, would you believe me?" No, Rem answered simply. Rem's answer was very straightforward. He looked at the gray puppy with a gentle gaze and picked it up in an extremely friendly manner. Looking at the wound on its leg and the clear footprints, his pretty face immediately turned ugly with dissatisfaction. He rubbed the puppy with great heartache. The huge footprints were naturally left by Dustless. Little and I, don't you think it's strange? Dustless looked at Rem and said confidently, "That kick of mine wasn't weak. It's enough to kick a normal human to death. However, this dog is completely fine. It's obvious that this dog isn't anything special. Go buy all the ingredients by yourself, I'll wait for you here," Rem said expressionlessly, clearly not interested in the topic of Dustless, or even annoyed. "Forget it. Since you don't like me, don't regret it." Dustless simply turned around and left, indicating that he had tried his best. He had originally wanted to kill this beast, but he was afraid that Rem would hate him for the rest of his life. After thinking about it carefully, he decided against it. After hundreds of years of ups and downs, Dustless had already trained an optimistic attitude. Even though he was being misunderstood, he still had a smile on his face. "That's good too. I'll let you little bastard be proud for a while. When the time comes, I'll wipe out all of you stupid dogs." Dustless glanced at Greyhound, whose eyes were shining, and immediately left silently. According to Rem's instructions, Dustless went to buy the necessary ingredients. As for what Rem was doing at this moment, Dustless didn't need to look to guess. She was most likely treating that stupid dog. He also saw the wound on Greyhound's leg before. Although it was bloody and looked very miserable, it didn't hurt the muscles and bones at all. To put it bluntly, it was just a simple skin wound. Moreover, according to Dustless's understanding, that dog's IQ is very high. Usually, when hunting for prey, it rarely appears. It manipulates a group of little brothers to besiege the enemy. The wound on its leg was probably caused by it in order to win Rem's sympathy. The world is degenerating day by day. A beast is smarter than a human. It's a pity that the dog didn't become an actor. Dustless secretly sighed. About 10 minutes later, he came out of the fruit shop and temporarily put all the ingredients he bought into the Kamui space. Uchiha Obito's Kamui space has been used by Dustless as a place to store groceries. It's time to leave. I hope Rem is okay. Dustless returned according to the original route, looking for Rem, who was helping Greyhound. He was always a little nervous. He wasn't worried about Rem's strength, but she was too kind and sympathetic. It's very likely that she was bitten by that big stupid dog when she was treating Greyhound. Kid, where's Rem? Walking into the village, Wu Chen grabbed a little ghost and asked. He purposely put on a ferocious look. In the woods, I don't know why, but a group of magical beasts suddenly appeared in the woods. We quickly went to call for reinforcements. They are besieging Sister Remington, the kid who was frightened quickly replied. Sure enough, what I was worried about still happened, but how long have I been gone? That beast can't help but feel hungry so soon. Wu Chen frowned and hurriedly turned into a streak of resplendent golden light and swept over in the direction that Imp pointed at. I'm afraid that the smart Greyhound also noticed the danger of Dustless, so it wanted to end the battle quickly and get rid of Rem as soon as possible. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In the dense woods, Dustless was alone. He couldn't help but frown when he smelled the scent of blood in the woods. He looked down and saw a large number of corpses of magical beasts. They were all stained with blood, and some of the magical beasts weren't completely dead yet. They were still breathing weakly. They were probably injured not long ago. At the front, Rem was fighting alone. She was surrounded by ferocious magical beasts that looked the same. They were all dog-type magical beasts. Beside Rem, there were a few unconscious children. They were also dripping with blood and were on the verge of death. Rem's eyes were filled with hatred and anger. She stared at Greyhound, who was protected by a large number of magical beasts. Her strong murderous intent couldn't be concealed. Woof woof woof, Greyhound barked proudly when Rem stared at it. The corners of its mouth curled up as if it was mocking Remington. Damn it. Rem stomped her feet. It was too late for regrets. If she could have trusted Dustless, she wouldn't have fallen into such a difficult situation. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2306. Adolf K. Weitzman looked at Dustless for help. At that time, Dustless defeated the King of Colorless, so he knew the inside story. As long as he was willing to explain, Adolf K. Weitzman would naturally not have to worry, and Nightblade God Go Lang would not pursue him. Is what he said true? Nightblade God Go Lang also looked at Dustless in confusion, hoping for a real answer. Him. Pointing at Adolf K. Weitzman, Dustless's eyes suddenly had a hint of playfulness and playfulness. Adolf K. Weitzman, who saw this, suddenly felt his heart skip a beat, as if a disaster was about to befall him. I hope you'll be careful with your words. Seeing Dustless's gloating expression, Adolf K. Weitzman's body inexplicably tensed up. Look at how useless you are. Are you really the King of Origins? I haven't even said anything yet, and you're already so scared. I'm afraid no one would believe that you're the oldest king. Dustless shook his head in disdain. Although Adolf K. Weitzman was the first king, his strength was only average. Phew! Hearing Dustless's words, Adolf K. Weitzman sighed in relief and looked at Nightblade God Go Lang with a smile. This proves that I'm innocent, right? I'll believe you this time. Although Nightblade God Go Lang was full of doubts, he still withdrew his sword. He felt that Dustless would not lie to him, and there was no need and reason for him to do so. To think that I wanted to watch a good show, what a disappointment. Cat, let's go back. After giving the two a bored look, Dustless and Cat walked away. Only Nightblade God Go Lang and Adolf K. Weitzman were left. In the original work, because Cat had modified Adolf K. Weitzman's memory, he did not know that he was the King of Silver. But now that Cat was taken away by Dustless, his memory was still intact, so some things were as clear as a mirror, and he knew that he was the King of Silver. In the healthcare teacher's office. Another boring day. Dustless sat lazily on the sofa in a daze. His empty eyes looked at the blue sky in boredom. As for the cat, it was eating with relish and sometimes showed happiness from the bottom of its heart. To her, having food was perhaps the greatest satisfaction in her life, and her life was unusually fulfilling. "It's not boring, it's very comfortable," the cat said contentedly, his mouth full of grease. "Don't compare me to a foodie like you." Dustless rolled his eyes in annoyance and said in an extremely annoying tone, "Sigh, it's lonely at the top. It's all because I'm too strong, and I don't even have an opponent. How lonely it is to be invincible." Cough, cough, cough. Hearing these words, Xiao Mao's face turned red. She turned her head and looked at Dustless speechlessly. How shameless could this guy be? Dong dong dong. At this moment, the sound of knocking on the door suddenly came. Dustless closed his eyes and sighed, "What bad luck, of all things, I had to be a healthcare teacher. Come in." Dustless calmed down and became serious again. Creak. The closed door was gently pushed open. Then, a pretty face suddenly poked her head in, looking left and right, giving the impression of a shifty-eyed person. "Student, if you want to steal something, you've come to the wrong place." Snow-stained chrysanthemum? Dustless's words came to an abrupt stop. When this face appeared in front of him, he suddenly called out the girl's name. "Are you sick? You don't look like it, you look good." Staring at the girl again and again, Dustless seriously analyzed. Although he was not a healthcare doctor, he had lived for nearly 1,000 years and had already trained a pair of discerning eyes. He could tell if she was sick or not with just a few glances. Being asked by Dustless like this, Snow-stained chrysanthemum's pretty face was bright red and was unusually shy. "If you have something to say, just say it. I'll try my best to deal with it." Student Snow-stained. Dustless changed the topic. Looking at the bright red face of Snow-stained chrysanthemum, he could not help but feel embarrassed. If he did not know, he would think that he was beastly and took liberties with her. Some things are really embarrassing. I'll only tell you, teacher. Don't tell anyone else, okay?" Snow-stained chrysanthemum's pretty face was even redder. Even the cat, who was eating heartily, stopped. She put down the snacks in her hand and stared at Dustless angrily. She looked like she was saying, "You dare to eat behind my back? This is really an unexpected disaster." Seeing this, Dustless did not know whether to laugh or cry. He waved his hand and walked to Snow-stained chrysanthemum's side and said, "Student Snow-stained chrysanthemum, if you have something to say, just say it. Don't beat around the bush. If you continue like this, my family's vinegar jar, that savage cat, will be furious." The thing is, looking at Dustless who was close at hand, Snow-stained chrysanthemum's face suddenly changed. Like an evil spirit, her left arm suddenly stabbed toward Dustless's abdomen. A sharp bayonet was clearly visible. Poochie, poochie, poochie. In a split second, Snow-stained chrysanthemum had stabbed Dustless more than a dozen times. Moreover, each of the stabs was fatal, without the slightest mercy. "Ha, ja. Now you're completely dead, right?" Snow-stained chrysanthemum suddenly laughed ferociously. That pretty face turned into the creepy smile of the Grim Reaper. What did you do to Dustless?" The cat was also stunned. She did not expect that the shy Snow-stained chrysanthemum would suddenly be possessed by a demon and become cruel and ruthless. Idiot, blame this guy for being too lecherous. He can't move when he sees a beauty." Snow-stained chrysanthemum laughed insolently, as if Dustless was already dead. Listening to this voice, "You should be that idiot colorless king, right?" A cold laugh suddenly sounded, making Snow-stained chrysanthemum's smile suddenly freeze. Looking down, his mouth suddenly opened wide. "P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates." Chapter 2307. She raised her head and saw Dustless's cold expression. His body was stabbed more than a dozen times, but he didn't even make a sound. His deep eyes were filled with wisdom and calmness. Of course, there was also a suffocating chill. Why aren't you hurt at all? Shuiran Julie's expression was extremely ugly. Her face was green and white, and it was extremely colorful. If I died after a few stabs, then I might have died a few hundred years ago. Dustless only responded indifferently. Immediately after, he looked at Shuiran Julie. No, it would be more appropriate to call him King Colorless, who was controlling Shuiran Julie's consciousness. Stupid waste, I thought you would be more sensible. Who would have thought that you would still recklessly look for trouble? Wu Chen's face condensed a dense murderous intent. That red light in his eyes scared the cat to retreat again and again. What a terrifying gaze. Not to mention the cat, even King Colorless was shocked. Under that gaze, he felt that his life was in Dustless's hands and could be killed at any time. You're not trying to scare me. Suddenly thinking of something, King Colorless controlled Shuiran Julie and grinned. Although I might be a bug to you and you only need to step on me. No, even sneeze to kill me. Don't forget that the original owner of this body is that little girl called Shuiran Julie. If you kill me like this, she will definitely die. You are quite self-aware. Dustless retracted his cold gaze, but his expression was still cold. It was undeniable that what King Colorless said was the truth. As long as he continued to hide in Shuiran Julie's body, Dustless would be helpless. Unless he killed Shuiran Julie as well, then he would be able to kill King Colorless. Kiki, King Colorless laughed sinisterly and said proudly, since you're willing to have tender feelings for the fairer sex, then I'll take my leave. I'll visit you again in the future. As soon as he finished speaking, the snow-stained chrysanthemum under the control of the colorless king slowly left. He was extremely pleased with himself, as if he had just won a battle. Are we just going to let him go like this? Cat looked at Shuiran Julie's slowly disappearing back. He was so angry that his teeth itched. He was not reconciled. This guy was really asking for a beating. Why are you so anxious? Compared to the angry cat, Dustless's expression was calm. There was no change at all. He said slowly, do you know why he attacked me? Why? The cat looked confused and said, isn't it because you two have a grudge? You humiliated him once before, so this guy hates you to death. This is only one of the reasons. There's a deeper reason. Dustless said slowly, this guy is quite ambitious. The bigger reason is that the colorless king has taken a fancy to my body and wants to take me for himself. That's why he came back for me. It's only a matter of time before I kill him. Take you for myself? Hearing this, the cat's pretty face was indescribably strange. You damned girl, what nonsense are you thinking? Seeing the cat's strange look, Dustless's mouth twitched. He knew that she had misunderstood and explained, you saw Shuiran Julie, right? He also wants to use this method to take over my body and obtain my ability. So that's how it is. Hearing this, the cat nodded in realization. Immediately, her body tensed up. Doesn't that mean that he can take over other people's bodies as he wishes? Me too? That's right, but it doesn't mean that he can devour that person's will. Dustless suddenly thought of Zhou Fangzuan and comforted, you don't have to worry. When your will is strong, the colorless king won't be able to take over your consciousness. For example, Zhou Fangzuan and Zhong Xiang Rights Division are powerful. Then I'm done for. Being so close to you, I'm definitely that guy's first choice. The cat complained rather miserably. You, Dustless smiled, rubbed the girl's head and said, didn't I say before? The people around me are special. As long as that guy dares to come out of Shuiran Julie's body, he's dead. Time passed unknowingly. Stars dotted the sky. In the blink of an eye, it was already late at night. The base of Veda Willow. As a violent organization, Veda Willow's base was unusually quiet. The public security was also ridiculously good. No one dared to cause trouble here. But today was different. On the streets, there were wailing crowds everywhere. These people were not invaders. They were all members of Veda Willow. To be able to beat up Veda Willow's people in their territory, this guy obviously had a big background. In the bar of Kusanagi Izumo, the atmosphere was extremely oppressive. It could go berserk at any time. Zhou Fangzhuan and the others also regained consciousness. Of course, it was not that they could withstand the beating. It was just that Dustless didn't go all out, so they woke up after a few hours. What do you mean by this? Are you ignoring this old man's orders? Zhou Fangzhuan. A tall old man roared. Even though his hair was white and he looked weak, his voice was full of energy. He even dared to call out Zhou Fangzhuan's name. Even a madman like Hatamiko was silent. She looked at the old man cautiously. Even if she was unhappy, she didn't dare to refute. This old man wasn't anyone else. He was the strongest Golden King. He dared to call out Zhou Fangzhuan's name directly. He also had the strength and was several times older than Zhou Fangzhuan. Old man, I'm not your ally. Why should I obey your orders? Pay attention to your attitude. Zhou Fangzhuan said coldly and domineeringly. Being defeated by Dustless was enough for him to be annoyed. Now that the Golden King was looking for trouble, did he really think that he was made of mud? Who could step on him whenever they wanted? P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2308. The scene was extremely heated. Both sides were filled with a strong smell of gunpowder. They looked at each other unkindly and ferociously. The situation could explode at any time. You didn't listen to my orders and got chased away by that guy. You've disgraced the king. The Golden King didn't intend to fight for the time being. Instead, he started to verbally attack Zhou Fangzhuan. This is also my business. It has nothing to do with you. Zhou Fangzhuan's face was cold and indifferent. He looked at the Golden King as if he was deliberately angering him. What's more, what right do you have to talk about me? A person like you who retreats without a fight is a disgrace to the king. Hearing this, the Golden King's old face turned red with anger. He looked at Zhou Fangzhuan angrily and roared hoarsely, "Boy, you're the first person who dares to talk to me like this after so many years." Zhou Fangzhuan didn't move. He wasn't afraid of the Golden King. Although this old guy was known as the strongest king, he wouldn't have an easy time if they really fought. I'll catch you today and apologize to that guy. In the end, the Golden King's majestic aura spread out. Everyone felt their bodies shaking. They were so weak that their bones cracked. It was as if this old guy could destroy everyone present in an instant with just a thought. So strong. The members of Fu Luo were all shocked. This powerful and overbearing aura was indeed stronger than Zhou Fangzhuan's, and it wasn't just a little bit stronger. Then bring it on. Zhou Fangzhuan also unleashed his aura. Fierce flames erupted and dazzling crimson light erupted unscrupulously. It was as if even the sky was about to burn. Bang! Because the aura of the two men was too terrifying, the moment the collision occurred, everyone except Zhou Fangzhuan and the Golden King were blown away by the merciless airwaves. The bar of straw pheasant out was razed to the ground in an instant. This ignorant brat, when will he grow up? The Golden King's furious face had a hint of helplessness. He couldn't help but lower his head and sigh. Couldn't Zhou Fangzhuan see that Dustless's strength wasn't something he could handle? Yet he still wanted to provoke the other party. Wasn't he courting death? The Golden King was really afraid that Dustless would get angry and fight with Zhou Fangzhuan. If that happened, the city would definitely not be able to withstand the fight between the two and would become a heartless burial object. Therefore, in order to appease Dustless's anger, the Golden King only wanted to capture Zhou Fangzhuan alive and let Dustless deal with him. Sometimes, a temporary retreat is not the so-called fear. Why don't you understand this principle? Stupid and ignorant red-haired brat. Huang Jinwu was extremely angry and scolded Zhou Fangzhuan. There is no such thing as regressing in my dictionary. Venerable Zhou Fangzhuan was still indifferent as he looked at the Golden King. Even if his aura was not as strong as this old man, he would not be afraid, let alone run away without a fight. All right, let's see how hard your bones are. The Golden King stopped talking nonsense. The void suddenly became extremely dazzling. A glittering golden sword floated in the sky. It was bejeweled and inviolable, as if it was carved by the heavens. This is the Golden King's sword of Damocles. Seeing the golden sword in the void, illuminating the sky with unparalleled power, many people's faces changed greatly. The sword of Damocles also reflected the king's own condition. Although the Golden King was now white-haired and had one foot in the coffin, and his age had reached an astonishing 95 years old, it was not difficult to see from the state of the sword of Damocles that this old man was still as powerful as ever. Looking at Venerable Zhou Fengzuan, his sword of Damocles seemed to be dim, like a useless sword. The huge sword body was full of broken marks. From time to time, ruins would fall, as if it could collapse and dissipate at any time. Idiot, you still want to fight with me in this state? The Golden King's face was gloomy. He asked in a hoarse voice, Venerable Zhou Fengzuan, don't you know your current physical condition? Stupid thing. Quickly resign from the position of king. I refuse. Venerable Zhou Fengzuan was unwilling to say another word, as if each word was worth 1,000 gold. You forced me to do this. The Golden King's murderous intent was awe-inspiring. His aura was getting more and more violent. Everyone held their breaths and broke out in cold sweat. Just as the two sides were about to engage in a fierce battle, a cold voice suddenly sounded. Is it really appropriate for you to treat me as heir so unscrupulously? This indifferent tone was like a bolt from the blue. Although the voice was very soft, it attracted everyone's attention. The two kings are about to fight. Who is so arrogant to disturb the situation at this time? Many people raised their heads and looked at the source of the voice. Who is so reckless? How dare he interrupt the duel between two kings? He doesn't know how death is written. It's this guy. He's here? Is he here to seek revenge? Seeing the newcomer, the members of Fei Wulua were all grief-stricken. The young man in front of them had delicate features. His black eyes were as deep as black holes that wanted to devour people's minds. The moment the young man appeared, everyone's face changed dramatically. Even the Golden King and the Red King, Venerable Zhou Fengzuan, withdrew their aura. Although their expressions didn't change as dramatically as the others, they still looked at the young man closely. Really, I'm not a beauty coming out of the bath. Why are you looking at me so hungrily? Dustless shook his head helplessly and said unscrupulously, Could it be that you are all bent? Are you all gay? This is really scary. Even the king is a pervert. This country will be finished sooner or later. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2309. The moment the young man appeared, everyone's expression changed drastically. Even the Golden King, the Red King, and Zhou Fengzuan retracted their auras. Although their expressions did not change as dramatically as the others, they still looked at the young man closely. Really, I'm not a beautiful woman coming out of the bath. Why are you looking at me so hungrily? Dustless shook his head helplessly, then said unscrupulously, Could it be that you are all gay? This is really scary. Even the king is a pervert. This country will be finished sooner or later. Is this guy crazy? After Dustless finished his ridicule, the scene was dumbfounded. Everyone was shocked and took a few steps back. This guy was crazy. He said that the king was gay. Wasn't this playing with fire? No, wasn't this playing with their lives? After all, they were kings high and mighty. When had anyone dared to slander a king like this? It was simply a naked provocation. Just as many people thought that the situation would escalate and that the Red King and the Golden King would turn around, Dustless began to provoke the two again. Let's stop the children's fight here. Wu Chen scrutinized the two of them with the intention of stopping them. His tone gave people the feeling that he was very tough and couldn't be disobeyed. It was as if he was an elder brother ordering his younger brother. This caused many people to look at each other in dismay. They exclaimed in their hearts that this guy was too arrogant. This guy must be a complete lunatic. The price to pay for provoking two kings is definitely terrible. Some of the minions who did not know the truth gasped and could not help but be stunned. One king was already terrifying, let alone two. And the most powerful one, the Golden King? However, from the beginning to the end, the Golden King and the Red King were silent. They did not say a word, as if what was happening in front of them had nothing to do with them. Your Excellency is right. I'm old, and my body is no longer suitable for fighting. These old bones can't stand any more torment. Since Your Excellency has spoken, I can't not give you face. This matter ends here. To everyone's surprise, the Golden King was silent for a while and agreed with Dustless. He did not refute Dustless at all. Instead, he laughed and agreed. That's strange. Previously, the King of Gold was so domineering. He wanted to capture the King of Red, Zhou Fangzuan, and hand him over to someone else. Why has his attitude softened now? Some people were dumbfounded and looked at the Golden King in confusion. Hatamiko and the others looked at each other and heaved a sigh of relief. Looking at the stunned crowd, they couldn't help but smile bitterly. The reason why the Golden King's attitude softened was because Dustless was right in front of him. I didn't expect that the person who resolved the crisis this time would be this guy. Hatamito's eyes were gloomy and sullen. Dustless was their enemy. One had to understand that he had been beaten up by Dustless and had lost all face. Now that an enemy had resolved the crisis, his heart was filled with indescribable complex emotions. What do you mean by that? Zhou Fangzuan looked at Dustless coldly. He had always used the tone of a man of few words and was unwilling to say more nonsense. You better understand your attitude. You're just a loser. Don't talk to me in such a questioning tone. Dustless also retorted sarcastically. This Zhou Fangzuan seemed to be quite forgetful and did not seem to be a loser at all. The king was defeated? Are you kidding me? If I remember correctly, there is no such guy among the 7 kings. Many people were stunned and looked at Dustless in horror. Why was this guy so terrifying? He could even defeat the legendary invincible king. Moreover, Zhou Fangzuan was silent and just looked at Dustless motionlessly. Obviously, this was the truth and not a groundless rumor. If he's not the king, how can he defeat the king? Everyone was stunned. Since the birth of the king, it symbolized invincibility. Just like the government of this country, although it was controlled by the prime minister, the person behind the scenes was still the Golden King. Tell your people to leave. I have something to tell you. Dustless glanced at Zhou Fangzuan indifferently. His tone was indifferent and emotionless. Bastard, watch your attitude. This is our boss, not your tone. Don't talk to our boss in such a commanding tone. Some of the members who were unhappy with Dustless cursed and rolled up their sleeves to beat him up. However, this group of people was not arrogant for long before they were knocked unconscious by Hatamito. Shut up. There are some people that you can't afford to offend. Do you understand? Get lost. Hatamito roared angrily. Were these people idiots? Can't you see? Not to mention Zhou Fangzuan, even the Golden King doesn't dare to challenge Dustless. This group of minions is the first to seek death. They are playing with fire. If we don't knock them out now and wait for Dustless to make a move, maybe it won't be as simple as just fainting. Losing an arm or a leg would be a small problem. Gangsters will always be gangsters. It's really hard to understand. Fortunately, my strength is strong enough. Otherwise, I would have been kicked out before I could even open my mouth. No, kicking me out is considered good. Maybe I wouldn't even have the chance to open my mouth and would have been crippled. Dustless said to himself. Your Excellency must be joking. You are our guest. No matter when, you will always be treated like this. Hatamito said with a fake smile. Dustless was right. They only looked at the size of the fist. As for reasoning, what the hell was that? Everyone leave. Do what you need to do. This matter ends here. Zhou Fangzuan took a deep look at Dustless and finally nodded in agreement unexpectedly. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2310. In fact, although Zhou Fangzuan's attitude was tough, He didn't want to offend Dustless. Even if he wasn't afraid of death, he had to think of others, such as Kusanagi Izumo. Therefore, he agreed to Dustless's conditions. Boss, what are you shouting about? Is everyone's ears stuffed with hair? Get out of here, or I'll drive you away personally. She even waved her bat, scaring a lot of people to run away at the mere sight of her. In the Vega Dance Luo organization, Hatamiko was famous for being a prick. Drive them all away. The moment she turned to look at Dustless, Hatamiko's arrogant expression disappeared. She nodded and bowed obediently. That shameless B** starred. The members of Vega Dance Luo who were driven away peeked at Hatamiko. Looking at her cowardly appearance, many of them stomped their feet in anger. She was so arrogant when she bullied them. Why did she become a coward when facing a stronger person? Disgusting. Especially that smirk, it made many people want to vomit. She was too shameless. Just say what you want. Zhou Fangzuan still looked arrogant, with an expression that said, "Don't waste my time." What an arrogant guy. Dustless wasn't angry. He suddenly said, "I can tell you some things about the colorless king." Are you sure? Hearing this, the members of Vega Dance Luo were stunned and looked at Dustless with joy. If we know about the colorless king, we can take revenge for Mr. Tatara. Among the members of Vega Dance Luo, Hatamiko was the most excited. After losing to Dustless, she thought that she would never get any information about the colorless king from Dustless. Who would have thought that happiness would come so quickly, and she would come knocking on his door? It seems that the next part is your private matter. This old man can't stand it anymore. Goodbye. Golden King relaxed when he heard this. He was really afraid that Dustless would beat up Zhou Fangzuan. If that happened, the city would be buried with him. Go ahead. Dustless nodded. He didn't speak respectfully and was extremely casual. Zhou Fangzuan, on the other hand, did not even look at the Golden King. His gaze locked on Dustless did not move. Although he looked very calm, the observant Dustless still noticed that the guy's breathing rate had obviously changed. It was just that he had concealed it very cleverly. That colorless king. Dustless thought of that abominable bug and slowly said, "First of all, the video you saw was Izana Society killing Toshiro. In reality, that's not the case. At that time, Izana Society's body was taken over by someone else. Is it outside of colorless?" Kusanagi Izumo's eyes shone with a cold light. He gritted his teeth and said, "That bastard has guts. He dares to kill our people. Why are you telling me this?" Zhou Fangzuan, on the other hand, was full of doubts. He stared at the naughty smile on Dustless's face and felt like he was being used as a tool. That bastard is too much of an eyesore. That's all. Dustless said casually, "Of course, there is another reason. That guy will come for you sooner or later, he will come for the guy from the Ancestral Right Division." Come for us? I don't think he will be so stupid as to walk into a trap. Zhou Fangzuan shook his head. He took over someone else's body and killed Toshiro. That proves that guy is very insidious and cunning. Come for me? Isn't that courting death? Courting death? Your inexplicable confidence is really unflattering. Dustless sneered. Zhou Fangzuan, you are just a chess piece in that guy's plan. Do you understand? Chess piece? Hearing this, the members of Wuwa changed their expressions. Kusanagi Izumo asked with uncertainty, "Do you mean that guy also wants to take over your body?" That's right. Dustless gently nodded and explained, "The colorless king's strength is average. He can even be said to be the weakest king. But his ability is quite strange. He can invade the body of others and assimilate the personality of both sides. He can even take over the ability for himself." I see. Everyone suddenly understood. No wonder the colorless king dared to find trouble with Dustless. He most likely wanted to take over his body. However, seeing that Dustless was safe and sound, there was no doubt that he had failed. Hence, he chose Zhou Fangzuan as his target. After all, compared to Dustless, Zhou Fangzuan was too weak. I can't wait for that guy to come for me. That way I can kill him. Zhou Fangzuan's killing intent was awe-inspiring. His whole body was emitting blazing flames. Toshiro was the first group of people to follow him. Although Zhou Fangzuan was usually sloppy and rarely spoke, he actually cared a lot about his companions. In the original work, Zhou Fangzuan even sacrificed himself to avenge Toshiro. It was enough to show that he valued relationships. You only came to find me for this? If you are done, you can leave. After knowing everything, Zhou Fangzuan immediately ordered Dustless to leave. Kid, you really don't know how to repay kindness at all. Dustless couldn't help but shake his head. He couldn't be bothered to lower himself to Zhou Fangzuan's level. He said bluntly, looking at you, it doesn't seem like you have come up with any brilliant ideas. Won't you regret chasing me away like this? I have a plan to lure the colorless king to take the bait. The instant Dustless's words fell, it immediately attracted everyone's attention. In other words, you want to cooperate with me? Zhou Fangzuan revealed a rare hint of surprise. Cooperation? You think too highly of yourself. You are not qualified. This is just purely using you. You are just a chess piece. Dustless couldn't be bothered to hide and directly said it. He believed that Zhou Fangzuan, who was eager to take revenge, would definitely jump in. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 23:11. Not qualified to cooperate and only fit to be a pawn? As soon as he said that, not to mention the bad-tempered Hadamiwa and the rest, even Channa was looking at Dustless angrily. This was blatant contempt and a slap in the face. Don't be too arrogant. Zhou Fangzuan's expression changed drastically. He thought that he was arrogant enough, but compared to Dustless, what was he in the past? He was simply too gentle. It could even be called the means of a sheep. This was what it meant to be arrogant. Even the king wasn't qualified to cooperate. His value was limited to being used. Still not convinced? I just beat you up. How long has it been? Have you forgotten the scars? Zhou Fangzuan. Dustless looked at them with ridicule. Oh, tell me about your plan. Hearing that, Zhou Fangzuan opened his mouth. Looking at Dustless's provocative eyes, he finally shut his mouth. Strength determined everything. Previously, they were all beaten up by Dustless. Since they were weaker than him, what qualifications did they have to talk about cooperation? Just like how the king could cooperate with ordinary humans? Without a doubt, it was impossible. The difference in strength was too great. It's not really a plan. I was just bored and thought about it a little. Dustless had his hands in his pockets. His tone was very calm. His eyes were focused on Zhou Fangzuan. And you might really die. But hearing that, the members of Bark Willow looked at Zhou Fangzuan worriedly. Among them, Kusanagi Juyun said in a deep voice, "Anyway, King Colorless will come out sooner or later. There's no need to take the risk. Lord, you should understand that without you, Bark Willow would lose its spiritual symbol. Bark Willow would also become a fish that could whet the appetite of others. Anyone could take a bite out of us." "You can't agree, Lord." Channa tugged at Zhou Fangzuan's clothes nervously. She looked at Dustless with a look of disdain and disdain. "What's with that look? I'm not a big bad wolf. Besides, I didn't force him." Dustless felt wronged and couldn't help but scold her. "You should agree, right?" Dustless ignored the crowd and looked straight at Zhou Fangzuan. "Although I don't know you very well, everyone knows your character. Sometimes, you don't care about losing your life for revenge. Don't tell me you can read my mind." Zhou Fangzuan glanced at Dustless and then closed his eyes, as if he was making a final decision. "Tell me your plan." After taking a deep breath, Zhou Fangzuan finally agreed to Dustless's request. Just as Dustless had said, for the sake of revenge, he didn't care even if he had to sacrifice his own life. It can't be considered a meticulous plan. It's just a crude strategy that I came up with in my spare time. It's not worth mentioning. Dustless put his hands in his pockets and said calmly, "The formless king is very weak. Without absolute confidence, he won't come out. So, we can only bait him." I thought it was some kind of plan. Kusanagi Izumo curled her lips in disdain. The formless king isn't an idiot. Why would he take the initiative to come out? He can't deal with Fangzuan's strength. That's why I need your king to cooperate with me. Dustless laughed sinisterly. Everyone felt their hair stand on end. The members of Wulua felt that this guy in front of them was a demon in human skin. Compared to him, the formless king was just a clown. Just say it, Zhou Fangzuan said firmly without blinking his eyes. It's very simple. Just like what that yellow-haired guy said. Dustless pointed at Kusanagi Izumo and said calmly, if you were at your peak, the formless king wouldn't dare to come out and find trouble with you. So, Dustless paused for a moment. His eyes narrowed slightly like a cunning old fox. I'll severely injure you. It'll be best if you're on the verge of death. That guy, the formless king, will definitely come out. This was the situation in the original work. The formless king racked his brains to provoke the battle between Zhou Fangzuan and the Ancestral Rites Division. His goal was for both of them to be injured. Then he would seize the opportunity to seize the body. Although the formless king could devour other people's consciousness, even a strong-willed person like Zhou Fangzuan couldn't do anything about it. Therefore, he racked his brains to provoke the battle between the King of Red and the King of Blue. He wanted to wait until both of them were injured to come out and take over their bodies. When a person was injured, all aspects of their physical fitness would decline. The same applied to their willpower. However, it would have been better if Dustless hadn't said anything. The moment he finished speaking, the members of Wuo looked at him angrily. Was this a plan? It was simply pushing Zhou Fangzuan into a fire pit. You call this a plan? It's obviously a rotten idea. Kusanagi Izumo looked at Dustless unkindly. He gritted his teeth and looked like he wanted to swallow Dustless whole. He suspected that this was a deliberate revenge. Rotten ideas are often the most effective, Dustless retorted. Why don't you take the risk yourself? Channa looked at Dustless motionlessly. Although her strength was average, her brain worked quite fast. Compared to Zun, your strength is stronger and your ability is more strange. Using you as bait is definitely more suitable than Zun. That's right. All the members of Wuan nodded. Dustless was obviously more tempting. Sorry, although I also want to be bait, I can't allow someone weaker than me to seriously injure me. More importantly, I'm afraid of pain, Dustless said as if he was joking, but also as if he was serious at the same time. You! The members of Wuo gritted their teeth in anger. This guy was really unmoved by force or persuasion. Enough, this is originally our Wulua's matter. Zhou Fangzuan suddenly scolded. The others fell silent. At the end of the day, Wulua wanted to eliminate King Colorless. Why should Dustless be the bait? No one would agree to this kind of thing. I agree. Staring at Dustless, Zhou Fangzuan didn't hesitate at all. As expected of a king, he was straightforward and direct. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 23:12. You guys don't have to worry. Seeing the members of Bark Dance Club glaring at him in anger, it was as if they wanted to beat Dustless to the ground to vent their anger. That's easy to say. You're not the one who died. The venerable one. This is all your fault. Sinming Anna was full of complaints. She couldn't wait to die together with Dustless. Little girl, you're so young. Why are you so mature? A child like you should focus on studying instead of learning how to fall in love with those senseless youngsters. Wu Chen said frankly. It would have been better if he didn't say anything. His words immediately attracted Sinming Anna's firepower. She looked at him angrily. You, don't tell me that I only treat Honored as an older brother. Really, why do you always misunderstand me? I didn't say that I had to severely injure him. Dustless sighed and explained slowly, we just have to pretend that we're in a big battle and pretend that we're injured. That's more like it. Hearing this, the members of Bark Dance Club were relieved. If Zhou Fangzuan was seriously injured and the king of colorless took over his body, wouldn't that be terrible? Let's begin. Zhou Fangzuan was a man of few words. He didn't want to waste time talking nonsense. His eyes turned cold. Powerful flames erupted from his body and he immediately pounced over. He lost to Dustless in the previous battle. He wasn't satisfied and wanted to try again. You're overestimating yourself. Dustless also understood Zhou Fangzuan's thoughts. He immediately stepped forward and threw out a seemingly weak punch. Boom, boom, boom. The curtains of a great battle that had turned from a farce into a reality had suddenly been raised. In the evening, Dustless had already returned home. As for Zhou Fangzuan, he was lying in the hospital. No matter how hard he tried, his strength couldn't shake Dustless. Dinner was still ordered takeout. Dustless didn't lack money and could eat all kinds of good food. Purr, purr. On the dining table, the cat swept up all kinds of delicacies. Whatever was in its mouth, in the pot, and even Dustless's portion was swept clean. This guy must have been the reincarnation of a hungry ghost in his past life. Dustless looked at the cat, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. When he was about to taste the sashimi, the cat spoke while eating. By the way, that white-haired guy came looking for you, the cat suddenly said, which made Dustless frown. A white-haired guy? Dustless lowered his head and thought for a moment before asking without hesitation, could it be the Izona Society? No, the Silver King? That's him. The cat nodded. There's also a young man with long hair. If I remember correctly, his name is Go Lang. The two of them. Dustless stopped the sashimi that was about to be stuffed into his mouth. In a split second, the sashimi was snatched away by the cat. The cat's speed dazzled Dustless and caught him off guard. You greedy cat. Dustless sighed faintly, leaned back on the sofa, and asked, let me guess why they're here. They're probably here to talk about cooperation again? They want to work together to deal with the colorless king. I rejected them last time, and this guy came looking for me again. He has no awareness at all. It was not that Dustless did not want to cooperate, but that there was no need to. It's not a matter of cooperation. The cat tilted its head and immediately recalled what happened before. It said, the two of them are very strange. They kept asking me about your background. My background? Hearing that, Dustless was somewhat surprised, but he was not surprised. He asked again, what did they ask? About my identity? Maybe it's not just the two of them. Everyone else is very curious. After all, Dustless was not a king, but his strength was almost overwhelming. Who would not find it strange? And there are others who came. The cat continued, it's the group in blue. What's their name again? I think it's the Ancestral Right Division. Dustless's gaze suddenly focused on the cat. He asked curiously, that guy came? Is he also asking about my background? In his mind, he suddenly remembered a wise man wearing glasses. Dustless's mind became active. He did not think that the Ancestral Right Division would curry favor with him. On the contrary, the two of them had a lot of grudges. Last time, he defeated the Ancestral Right Division and made this guy lose face. Although there were no more conflicts after that, there was no doubt that Dustless made a king lose face. If he could endure being slapped in the face, he would not be a king. They don't come with good intentions. Dustless said softly, although I don't think the Ancestral Right Division will do anything despicable, you'd better be careful. By the way, other than asking about my whereabouts, did he ask anything else? Dustless asked. It was strange that there were no traces of Scepter 4 in the past few days. It was as if he had disappeared from the face of the earth. The cat tilted his head and thought carefully. At that time he was quite scary. He gave off a very deep feeling. That's interesting. It seems like something happened. Hearing this, Wuchen smiled with interest. As everyone knew, the Ancestral Right Division was a person who paid great attention to etiquette and his image. Not to mention when he was angry, even when talking to the enemy, he would speak politely. The only person who could make the Ancestral Right Division angry was Dustless. Now that this guy was angry again, Dustless could not help but gloat. What does it have to do with you? The cat asked worriedly. Let me tell you, that guy is really angry. Maybe if it weren't for you, he would have already taken me away. After saying this, the cat showed a frightened expression. I'm innocent, Dustless said briefly and made a guess out of boredom. But according to my opinion, there's an 80% chance that something unexpected happened. The Ancestral Right Division was very angry when they couldn't find the culprit. They investigated all the enemies, including me. Needless to say, this time he guessed right. The Ancestral Right Division really did encounter something bad. He hadn't slept for several days and his eyes were bloodshot. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 reviews plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 23:13. In Scepter 4's base, all the members looked nervous and did not look too good. For the past few days, their boss, the Ancestral Right Division, had been acting like he had eaten gunpowder. He kept throwing tantrums for no reason, causing everyone to complain incessantly. Sometimes they would be scolded for no reason, but they couldn't refute. They could only bow and admit their mistakes. It was really frustrating. Fujian, have you found her? In the office of the CEO, the Ancestral Right Division was looking at the tall buildings in the distance. He was in a trance, and his face looked haggard. In the past, he gave people the impression that he was full of energy and vigor. Now, he looked like a prisoner who had quit drugs. His whole body was bald and listless. Not yet. The young man called Fu Jian lowered his head in shame. I'm sorry, it's all because of my incompetence that Miss Adashima went missing. Just 2 days ago, the second-in-command of Scepter 4, Adashima Shirley, suddenly disappeared without a trace. No one knew where she went, and no one knew where she went. They couldn't contact her anymore. This made the members of Scepter 4 very anxious. The Ancestral Right Division immediately suspected that it was done by some enemy, so he went to ask Dustless and the others. However, he didn't get any answers. He was indescribably depressed and anxious. Don't blame yourself too much. This has nothing to do with you. Order your men. Even if you have to turn the city upside down, you have to find Shirley. Even if she's dead, you have to find her body. The Ancestral Right Division's tone was full of murderous intent. The reason why the members of Scepter 4 had disappeared these days was because they were all searching for Adashima Shirley. That was why Dustless didn't see the man in blue. See, there are some things that I don't know if I should say. Fu Jian looked hesitant. His lips trembled slightly, as if there was something that he couldn't say. If you have something to say, then say it. There are no outsiders here. The Ancestral Right Division looked at Fu Jian with hope. He sincerely hoped that he would say something valuable. Adashima Shirley's sudden disappearance was a huge blow to the Ancestral Right Division. After all, she was his right-hand woman. He couldn't afford to lose her. Miss Dama would not disappear for no reason. In my opinion, she must have been taken away by someone. Fu Jian Yugu secretly glanced at the Ancestral Statue Rights Division and saw that he also had a deep expression on his face. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief and continue, Miss Danjuma is not weak. The person who can capture her without her knowing is probably a king. Your analysis is reasonable. Fu Jian, I didn't expect your thinking to become more and more mature. In the future, you will be able to help me solve my problems. The Ancestral Statue Rights Division smiled gently and was very satisfied with Fu Jian. Actually, his face suddenly paled and he said helplessly, to tell you the truth, I thought so too. That's why I went to find Dustless, but he wasn't home at the time. Then, in your opinion, it was Dustless who kidnapped Miss Danjima? Fu Baigu saw the coldness in Yuan Bigu's eyes, and his tone suddenly became hostile. It's hard to say. Hearing this, the Ancestral Statue Rights Division didn't know how to answer. He could only say what he thought. I don't think Dustless would do such a thing. He kidnapped Danjima just to threaten me. But Dustless doesn't need to threaten me. He is stronger than me. Why would he threaten me? If he wanted to, he could have just taken it openly. I can't stop him anyway. There's no need to do such a thing. That's true. Fu Jianyugu nodded deeply. If he was dustless, he would directly choose to come to their door. Why would it be so troublesome? Dong dong dong. At this moment, a hurried knocking sound came from the door. Both of them furrowed their brows without leaving a trace. Come in. The Ancestral Statue Rights Division said in a deep voice. Chief, someone has sent you a letter. The person who came in said as he handed a wrapped envelope to the Ancestral Statue Rights Division. Envelope? Hearing this, the Ancestral Statue Rights Division frowned. Who would be so troublesome to send a letter? Open it and take a look. The Ancestral Statue Rights Division tore open the envelope. There was no so-called content, just a few simple photos. This is bastard. Who did this? The Ancestral Statue Rights Division was instantly furious. The photo that came into view was of Danji Mashiri, who was tied up. She looked embarrassed, as if she hadn't eaten for a long time. Her face was as pale as paper. Who did this? Fu Jianyugu was also furious. Could it be the group of people from the Red King? Everyone hasn't been harmonious all this time. Ding ding ding. At the same time, the phone on the table suddenly rang. The frustrated Ancestral Statue Rights Division was about to hang up, but the moment he picked up the phone, he couldn't relax. Have you seen the photo? Do you want this lady to live? A simple sentence seemed to be filled with magic. The Ancestral Statue Rights Division's face suddenly changed. Who the hell are you? You'd better ensure her safety. Otherwise, I'll tear you into pieces even if I have to destroy this country. The Ancestral Statue Rights Division's face turned red, and his ferocious eyes made people shudder. Fu Jianyugu was also shocked. In his memory, this was the first time the leader was so angry. My request is very simple. Bring Tsun Anna's head to me. Otherwise this woman is dead for sure. After that, the mysterious man hung up the Den Den Mushi. If Dustless was here, he would be able to recognize this strange voice. In fact, it was Colorless himself. He did this to provoke a war between the Red King and the Blue King, and then he would benefit from it. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 23:14. In the original work, the Colorless King provoked the two kings to fight, hoping that they would both be injured. Then he would have a chance to make his move. However, due to Dustless's interference, some of the Colorless King's plans had failed, so he could only use other schemes. Although the King of Colorless strength was average and he was the weakest among the kings, he was smart. Even though Dustless had exposed his scheme, he quickly found another plan, which was to capture Dan Shirley alive and threaten the King of Blue to kill Chom Anna. If he didn't do so, he would kill the hostage. Danishima Shirley was the right-hand man of the King of Blue, and he couldn't afford to lose him. However, Semoin Anna was also the King of Red's favorite, and he couldn't afford to lose her. Once the Ancestral Rights Division killed Semoin Anna, both sides would fight to the death. One of them had to disappear from the world. Crack! The Ancestral Rights Division crushed the phone, and his elegant face turned ferocious. Damn Colorless King, you better not fall into my hands. If I catch you, I will make you regret living in this world, regret being a king, and regret threatening my Ancestral Rights Division. The Ancestral Rights Division was like a furious lion. His hair stood on end, and his body emitted destructive waves. The surrounding windows were shattered, and even Fujian Yubigu, who was caught off guard, was sent flying. Leader, what should we do? Fujian Yubigu struggled to get up. His eyes were flickering, and he seemed to be in a dilemma. The Colorless King's actions were to force the Ancestral Rights Division and Zhou Fangzuan to go to war. You can leave first, let me think. The Ancestral Right Division sucked in a breath of cold air. They were also at a loss. There was no shortcut to this situation. If they didn't kill Haname Anna, then Tadajimashiri would definitely die. If they didn't do anything, then Tadajimashiri would be killed. No matter what, this was a dead end. No wonder the Ancestral Rights Division was in such a dilemma. Fujin. After about an hour, the Ancestral Rights Division finally spoke. Bring everyone to Fei Wulua's territory. Zhou Fangzuan and the Ancestral Rights Division were about to go to war. On the other hand, Dustless was still lazy. Because it was the weekend, he even brought his cat to the beach for a vacation. Life was as pleasant as it could get. Hey, Dustless, hurry up and help me apply sunscreen. I don't want to get tanned. The cat looked at Dustless, who was lying down comfortably, and suddenly said. Looking up, the cat was wearing a pink swimsuit. Her nosebleed figure was extremely eye-catching, especially her cleavage, which swayed as she walked, as if it could burst her swimsuit at any time. However, no one appreciated this fanciful scene. Dustless was lying there calmly, as if he had fallen asleep. He did not look at the cat at all. Since he was not short of money, he simply booked a private sea area. The huge beach only had Dustless and the cat. It was very quiet and deserted. Little girl, do this kind of thing yourself. Don't bother me. Dustless waved his hand casually. Also, don't find a man you're not familiar with to apply sunscreen for you. Some contact can't be avoided. You have to understand. Bang. A black shadow fell from the sky and landed heavily on Dustless's stomach. He almost spat out a mouthful of blood. F***CK. Dustless quickly opened his eyes and almost stopped breathing. He threw away his sunglasses and looked at the cat sitting on his body. He scolded, "You need to lose weight." Looking at the cat, Dustless felt for the first time in his life that it was not a good thing for a girl to be too voluptuous. I asked you to apply sunscreen for me. How dare you refuse me? The cat's eyes were spitting fire. She grabbed Dustless's collar. Do you understand that this is a very rude thing to do? I don't understand. Dustless rolled his eyes and said snappily, but one thing is for sure. You're treating me like a servant. After so many years, you're the first one. I asked you to apply sunscreen because I think highly of you. The cat snorted as if he should be grateful. Is that so? Then I'm really flattered. Dustless sighed and immediately took the sunscreen. Lie down. At least you know what's good for you. The cat's pouting mouth disappeared. She suddenly smiled and lay down in front of Dustless like a fairy. Little girls nowadays don't know how to guard against wolves. If it wasn't for my good conduct, you little girl would have been eaten up and not even your bones would be left. While Wu Chen was applying sunscreen to the cat, he kept complaining. He had to say that the cat's skin was really good. It was unusually delicate and elastic to the touch. It was as smooth as jelly. After the sunscreen was applied, the cat's skin was sparkling under the sunshine. Ding! A cool and light feeling spread throughout the cat's body. The cat let out a satisfied moan. She was very lazy, as if she was floating in the clouds. She was lying down and enjoying quietly, very happy. If it was an ordinary person, they would probably have already transformed into a wolf at this moment. Instead, Dustless was calm and unmoved. For close to 1,000 years, he had experienced too many matters of love. What did this count as? By the way, I have something to ask you. The cat suddenly turned her head to look at Dustless. She saw that this guy was serious and didn't have any bad intentions. Her heart was empty and she was a little disappointed. It's so strange. Didn't the TV say that when doing this, the man's heart would beat faster and his face would turn red? And then do some? The cat seemed to have thought of something that was difficult to say. Her face turned red. Say it. Dustless didn't even look at the cat. His voice was very cold. You're a blockhead. Hearing that indifferent tone, the cat was angry. She suddenly raised her leg and kicked Dustless. But the next second, she screamed. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 23:15. Pang. The jade-like foot that was kicking over was easily caught by Wu Chen. He deliberately scratched the soles of the cat's feet. It was so ticklish that she felt uncomfortable all over. Let go of me, bad guy. I know I was wrong. Let go of me, bad guy. The cat quickly rolled over. Although she said she knew she was wrong, she didn't regret it at all. Her other foot continued to attack Dustless. You dare to kick me and dare to call me a bad guy. You asked for it. Dustless suddenly felt playful. He had been bored for a long time, and now was a good opportunity to release it. He didn't hesitate to use the shadow clone to suppress the cat's arms. Dustless sat on the cat's body without any mercy. Little girl, how do you think I should punish you? Dustless looked at the cat, who was laughing non-stop. His words were full of ridicule. You bad guy, don't fall into my hands. Otherwise, I will pay you back 100 times. The cat was trembling with anger. Her breasts were moving up and down as if she wanted to break out of her clothes. You still dare to threaten me now? Dustless couldn't help but be speechless. This little girl didn't have any awareness of being a captive. She bared her teeth as if she wanted to swallow him. Forget it. Dustless waved his hand. He was too lazy to make things difficult for this little girl. The shadow clone also disappeared. Hey, why don't you play anymore? The shadow clone suddenly disappeared. The cat didn't retaliate as expected. Instead, she looked extremely angry. Her angry look seemed to be asking Dustless why he didn't play with her anymore. Damn, this little girl can't have a special hobby of being abused, right? Looking at the cute angry look of the cat, her delicate little face puffed up. Her eyes were full of resentment. Those who didn't know might think that Dustless abandoned her. Cough cough cough. Right? You said you have something to say. What is it? Tell me. Dustless awkwardly coughed twice and quickly changed the topic. He said very generously, if you want to know, I will definitely not hide it. Really? The cat's IQ was definitely not as high as a veteran like Dustless. She was instantly fooled and forgot the previous topic. She asked, is there no other way to teach the King of Colorless a lesson? That fellow is too sinister. He always likes to attach himself to other people's bodies. You can't just keep waiting for him to take the bait. So it's this stupid question. Upon hearing this, Dustless's interest disappeared. He pursed his lips and looked at the cat. I think you're afraid that he'll possess your body, right? I'm doing this for your sake, and you still dare to not appreciate it? If I am possessed, the first unlucky person will be you. The cat raised her delicate fist, wanting to hit Dustless. Like I said, there are countless ways to deal with King Colorless. Dustless's tone was calm and full of confidence. He said calmly, do you know who the first king was? Of course I do. Don't underestimate me. The cat tilted her head and answered without hesitation. It's the Silver King, Alf K. Weitzman, that white-haired gigolo. Gigolo? Upon hearing this, Dustless's mouth twitched. He had always called the Silver King a gigolo. Unknowingly, he had led the cat astray. It's indeed him. Dustless nodded and smiled mysteriously. He's the origin of kings, the first king in the world. He's also the first to obtain the king's power. Then, do you know where the king's power comes from? I don't know. The cat was confused. It's not strange that you don't know. After all, this kind of thing involves a lot of secrets. The more you know, the more troublesome it will be. Isn't there a saying that the more you know, the faster you'll die? Dustless said with a chuckle. It was this sentence that scared the cat so much that her expression changed. Then you'd better not tell me. I don't want to die. I still want to eat a lot of good food. The cat's face was filled with fear, as if she was really scared. You're really F***ket up. Sometimes I really don't understand. You're not afraid of me at all, but you're so scared of those stupid things. Is my deterrence less than their king's? Wu Chen was extremely speechless and ridiculed. There were a million alpacas galloping in his heart. Was he too weak? What was a king? Because you won't hurt me. Blinking her eyes, the cat looked at Dustless seriously. You little girl. Dustless rubbed the cat's head. She immediately lay in his arms obediently. Dustless didn't reject this. He stroked her hair gently and explained, the king's power comes from the Drexton stone plate. This is the source of all the king's power, a Drexton stone plate. Hearing this, the cat was stunned. She stared at Dustless with her mouth wide open. She didn't expect the king's power to come from an ordinary-looking Drexton stone plate. It sounded like a fairy tale. Are you surprised? Dustless looked at the doubtful cat and said, "It's not just the king's power. Your power, and even the power of all outsiders, comes from that Drexton stone plate. There's actually such a miraculous thing in this world?" The cat's expression was shocked. It was unbelievable that a Drexton stone plate could have such power. There are all kinds of strange things in this world. This is nothing. I've seen things that are even more heaven-defying than the Drexton stone plate. Dustless calmly replied. In these thousands of years, he had seen all kinds of unimaginable things. Don't think that the King of Colorless is playing like a fish in water now. Once my patience runs out, he'll be finished. The easiest way is to destroy the Drexton stone plate. That way, all the king's power will disappear. Let's see how he can continue to show off then. Dustless sneered. It was too easy to deal with the King of Colorless. This was only one of many methods. There were actually many similar methods. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 reviews plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 23:16. However, this method was too thorough. All the kings and the powers of those outside their authority would disappear. In other words, even Cat would not be able to escape this fate. Staring at the girl with different expressions, Dustless finally shook his head. He couldn't bear to take away Cat's power. After all, there were too many ways to kill the colorless king. It's good that you can deal with him. This way, I won't have to worry. Cat's pretty face bloomed with a charming smile as she rubbed against Dustless's chest. You little girl, you're not taking advantage of me, are you? Sensing the abnormality in his body, Dustless scratched her nose in annoyance. His face revealed a deeply conflicted expression, as if he had suffered a great loss. Of course not. Cat's pretty face instantly filled with a sickly blush as she hurriedly curled into a ball. Dustless could even feel her heartbeat accelerating. You're still denying it? I heard it all. Ding ding. At this delicate moment, Dustless's phone suddenly rang. The number was extremely strange. It was actually Zhou Fangzuan's underling, Hatamiko. This kid is actually looking for me? How rare. Dustless's expression was indescribably strange. He couldn't help but look at the sun. It didn't seem to be coming out from the north. Something bad has happened. Mr. Zun and the people in blue are fighting. Hatamiko's anxious voice came from the other end of the phone. He could also hear rumbling sounds. Even though he wasn't there, Dustless could guess that an intense battle was going on. They're fighting? Dustless frowned deeply, rather puzzled. These two didn't seem to have any direct grudges. Although the two kings' organizations had deep grudges and often fought with each other, the direct conflicts between Zhou Fangzuan and the Ancestral Right Department could be counted on one hand. Let's go take a look. Looking down, Silver decided to end his vacation for the time being and rush over to take a look himself. At this moment, Fu Wulua's territory had long been reduced to ruins. Charred buildings could be seen everywhere, and the air was filled with an unbearable foreign smell. Damn it, monkey, what do you mean by wearing blue clothes? At a glance, the members of Fei Wuo and the clan of the King of Black were engaged in a battle. They were completely serious, and some of them even had white knives entering and red knives exiting. What do you mean? I haven't seen you for a few days and your IQ is getting lower and lower, Mimi. Fujiwara smiled sinisterly, and then slashed his sword at Hatamiko. Of course, it's to destroy you Wuo bastards. Clang. As the sword fell, sparks flew in all directions, and Fu Jian's arm went numb from the shock. Why are you here? The moment he looked up, Fujiki Aku's eyes froze. The person standing in front of him was neither Hatamiko nor Zhou Fangzuan. It had nothing to do with the members of Vega Wulo. This is a grudge between us and the Red King's clan. It has nothing to do with you. Get out of the way. Fu Jian looked at the young man who was causing trouble with an unfriendly expression. This person actually used 2 fingers to catch his full strength attack. Even if he used all the strength in his body, he still couldn't pull out the sword that was caught between his fingers. You dare to talk to me like that? Dustless's eyes flashed with a hint of mockery, and he laughed. It seems that you have become stronger. Boom, boom, boom. On the other side, Zhou Fangzuan and Zhong Xiangrites were engaged in a fierce battle. Their auras broke through the vast sky, and brilliant crimson and blue collided with each other. However, it was obvious that Zhou Fangzuan was at a disadvantage because he had been injured according to Dustless's plan. His strength was not as good as Zhong Xiangrites for the time being. After all, Zhou Fangzuan was still injured. Tell me, why do you want to go to war with the king of Red's clan? Wu Chun looked into Fu Jian's eyes and questioned. He was not angry. Why should I tell you? Who do you think you are? Fujiki Aku asked angrily. He was very unhappy with Dustless. Who does this guy think he is? How dare he speak to me in such a commanding tone? Oh, you have a bad temper? Dustless suddenly narrowed his eyes, radiating a dangerous light. Don't force me to do it. I will force you to do it. It would have been better if Dustless had not said that. The moment his voice fell, Fujiki Aku was immediately angered. Perhaps in his opinion, Dustless's words were naked humiliation and contempt. Do I need to be beaten up? Seeing Fujiki Aku's ferocious face, Dustless was speechless. At the same time, he gently tapped the ground with the tip of his foot and flashed out. Go to hell. The blue sword light swept out and disappeared in the blink of an eye. It rushed out and swept to Dustless's side in an instant. Crack! The light penetrated his body, and a shocking crack appeared on his abdomen. However, this could not stop Dustless from pouncing on Fujiki Aku with an unstoppable flash. Monster. Hata Misato opened her mouth. If she was attacked like that, she would have died instantly. On the other hand, Dustless didn't even make a sound. It was as if Fujiki Aku was attacking someone else. Damn it, monster. Fujiki Aku was also very depressed. He was helpless against Dustless's heaven-defying ability. Looking at the light flying toward him, he could only silently watch. The enemy was right in front of him, but he was just a mass of air without a physical body. He couldn't attack at all. Bang! With a karate chop, Dustless knocked out the unwilling Fujiki Aku. Immediately after, Dustless began to read his memories. Since this guy didn't want to confess, he could only use force. So that's how it is. Colorless King's strength is average, but he can play tricks. After reading Fujiki Aku's memories, Dustless was relieved and soon sneered. Since you want to play, I will play with you to the end. Rolling his eyes, Dustless quickly thought of a plan to deal with him. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 23:17. Is there any way to stop Mr. Monarch and the Ancestral Right Division? While Dustless was pondering, Hatamiko came over with a worried face. She looked up and saw 2 swords of Damocles floating in the blue sky. One of them was from the Ancestral Right Division, and the other was from Mr. Monarch Zhou Fangzuan. The body of the sword was broken, and it looked like it could be dismembered at any time. The Ancestral Right Division is here for the little girl, Anna. Where is she? Bring her to see me. Dustless looked at Hatamiko and said calmly, For Anna? Hearing this, Hatamiko was stunned and looked at Dustless suspiciously. The Ancestral Right Division has no grudge with Anna. It's strange that they are here for her. Hatamiko didn't think that Fatal Anna would offend the Ancestral Right Division. Even if she did, they would let bygones be bygones. Don't waste time. There are some things that can't be explained clearly to a hothead like you. Just do what I tell you to do. Bring her to me. Don't talk nonsense. Dustless impatiently scolded. You call me a hothead? Hatamiko's mouth twitched. She was angry, but she didn't dare to say anything. If other people dared to say that to her, she would have beaten them up. But Dustless was an exception. She absolutely couldn't afford to offend him. I'll go find Anna. Wait a moment. Hata Miko hurriedly left. It seemed that she was going to find Anna. The Ancestral Right Division is also a fool. He knew that it was a plot of the King of Colorless, but he still stepped into the trap. It seems that Danishima Shirley is very important to him. He is also infatuated. Dustless sighed to himself. The King of Colorless captured Danishima Shirley alive and threatened to kill her if the Ancestral Right Division didn't kill Anna. His purpose was very obvious. It was to provoke a war between the two kings. When both of them were injured, the King of Colorless would come out to clean up the mess. The Ancestral Statue Rights Division clearly knew that this was a trap, yet he still chose to step into it. It was obvious that this girl called Danjima Shiri meant a lot to him. No wonder he came looking for me so aggressively. He probably thought that I was the one who captured Danjima Shiri. Dustless rolled his eyes, and two figures suddenly appeared in his vision. Naturally, they were Hatamiwa and Channa. Bad guy, you're still in the mood to watch the show? Hurry and stop them. The Venerable One was injured before, and his strength is inferior to the King of Blacks. This is all you're doing. Anna's anxious voice resounded in Dustless's ears. Looking carefully, this little girl was actually covered in blood. Are you hurt? Hearing this, Dustless frowned slightly and looked at Sinming Anna carefully. Although it was not fatal, it was a fact that she was injured. Her cute face was also covered with a layer of dirt. Was it done by the Ancestral Right Department? Dustless guessed, but his tone was very certain. Sinming Anna's crystal eyes looked at Dustless without moving. She didn't say a word, but in the end, she just nodded gently, obviously admitting to it. No wonder Venerable Zhou Fengzuan was so desperate. Dustless was relieved. Venerable Zhou, who was fighting with the Ancestral Right Department in the distance, seemed to have gone crazy. His body was raging with flames, and the area within a few hundred meters was scorched black. Even steel would melt instantly. Sinming Anna was injured, and this had deeply infuriated Venerable Zhou. In this way, both sides would not rest until one of them was dead. Hurry and stop them. Sinming Anna's face was full of worry. She looked up and saw that Venerable Zhou's sword of Damocles was getting more and more damaged. It could fall at any time, and the consequences would be unimaginable. It's useless. Even if I stop them, these two have already formed a grudge. There's no way to resolve it. Taking a deep look at Sinming Anna, Dustless said indifferently, the Ancestral Right Department wants your life without distinguishing between right and wrong. You are also Venerable Zhou's person. Now that he has injured you, the two of them are like lightning and fire. There's no need for us to get involved. In the future, when they meet, they will burn each other. Hatamiko was silent and looked at the Ancestral Statue Rights Division with murderous intent. Until now, she still couldn't figure out why the Ancestral Statue Rights Division had suddenly turned hostile and attacked her. She was caught off guard and suffered heavy losses. In fact, not only was Sinming Anna injured, but Kusanagi Izumo was also severely injured and his life was hanging by a thread. Just like Dustless said, whether this was a misunderstanding or not, both sides had already formed a grudge. Moreover, they would definitely not rest until there was a victor. In the future, they were destined to fight to the death. And I have already taken action to stop them. Dustless said leisurely, the Ancestral Right Department wants to use your life to exchange for Danishima Shiri's life. In the end, he is still here for you. As long as you are with me, that guy will soon come to find trouble with me. Come for me. Sinming Anna's pretty face was full of confusion. She didn't understand what was so special about her that made the Ancestral Right Department go to such lengths and even want to fight to the death with Venerable Zhou. Fight to the death. This is all part of the Colorless King's scheme. Dustless sighed. Although that guy's strength was average, his brain was surprisingly smart. He specifically targeted Venerable Zhou and the Ancestral Right Department's weak spots. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, a turbulent energy fluctuation rushed over like a stormy sea. It was unparalleled. Hatamiko and Sinming Anna, who were caught off guard, were almost sent flying. He's here. Dustless looked at the sky. The ancestral right department stepped on the sky as if he could fly. The place he stepped on would form a blue barrier for him to step on. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 23:18. He's quite arrogant. Seeing the ancestral statue ritual division coming from the sky, Wu Chen curled his lips casually. Of course, it was only for a short moment. The next second, it flashed away. Only Hanae, Anna, and Hadamiko, who were closer to Wu Chen, realized that something was wrong. It's over, King of Blue is going to be unlucky. The two of them looked at each other in dismay. They could see the same meaning in each other's eyes. What kind of method is this guy going to use to make Channa look bad? I'm really looking forward to it. Hadamito and Channa looked at Dustless curiously and couldn't help but daydream. Due to Channa's surprise attack on Feiwulua, they suffered heavy losses, so they didn't have the slightest good impression of King of Blue and Channa. They couldn't wait for Dustless to beat up Channa. Wu Chen was silent, but his eyes focused on Rishi. His eyes also changed greatly. His dark eyes turned into the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan in the shape of a 5-pointed star. Everyone shuddered when they looked at him. His ominous eyes pulsed with scarlet light, as if they could penetrate people's mind. Being stared at by them, people would feel a sense of despair as if they had fallen into hell. Maybe in the past, he didn't show his full strength and was just teasing us. Damn it, how strong is this monster? Both Hadamiko and Channa Anna had complicated feelings in their hearts. If the ancestral statue rights minister had not ambushed Feiwulua, they could not wait for Wu Chen to be unlucky. It would be best if they could beat him up to vent their anger. But now it was the opposite. They were cheering for Wu Chen in their hearts, hoping that he would beat the ancestral statue rights minister. People are so wonderful, the change of position is often just a snap of a finger. You still dare to show off in front of me, aren't you forcing me to slap your face? Dustless's smile became more obvious, and the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan kept spinning, like ripples splashing on the calm water surface, and from time to time, a sharp light flashed. What's going on? Channa's heart suddenly jumped, and an unprecedented deep uneasiness spread in his heart. He didn't know why, but for a moment he felt a little flustered in his heart, as if it was blocked and he couldn't breathe, and there was a feeling of suffocation. There must be a demon in this abnormal situation. Channa's nerves tightened. It was the first time he felt so inexplicably nervous. Something bad must be happening, he had never felt this before. Could it be him? He suddenly lowered his head and looked at Wu Chen. His expression changed slightly as he realized that Wu Chen was looking at him mockingly, especially those strange eyes. At first glance, his soul trembled, as if he was being stared at by a demon. This guy's ability is strange. He's not a king, but he's even more powerful than a king. Channa secretly reminded himself, and he didn't dare to have the slightest carelessness in front of Dustless. He still hasn't forgotten the scene of being crushed before. Hey, fall for me, you dare to show off in front of me, you're asking for a beating. Dustless suddenly smiled, and the powerful eye power burst out in an instant. Amaterasu! In the blue sky, a black evil flame swept across without any warning. Of all places, it just had to burn the blue barrier that the Minister of Ceremonies was standing on. It almost evaporated in an instant. The temperature of Amaterasu is too terrifying, especially Dustless's control of the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan has reached an incredible level, and all kinds of ninjutsu have become magical. Puff! The azure blue barrier was evaporated, and the ancestral statue rights division who was stepping on air was also unlucky. After losing his support point, he missed a step and fell from the sky, landing on his back. Haha, serves you right. The scene was stunned for a moment, and then it was followed by earth-shattering laughter. Seeing this scene, all the members of Feiwulua could not help but laugh. The arrogance of the ancestral statue rights department was still vivid in everyone's mind. It was like a king sent down by the heavens, walking towards Wu Chen in the air. But now, it had been tricked, and its face had been completely swept away. "You bastard! You did it, right?" Channa stood up from the ground, his face was blue, and his whole body was trembling with anger. "This guy is too hateful. So what if it's me? So what if it's not me? If I say it's not me, will you leave?" Dustless said slowly, "Don't think that you can be arrogant just because you defeated Zhou Fangzuan. That guy's strength is actually weak, and he was beaten by me before. You can defeat him just because he hasn't recovered his strength." No wonder. The doubts in Channa's heart were relieved. No wonder in the previous battle, Zhou Fangzuan's strength was not as good as before. It's because this guy tricked Zhou Fangzuan in advance. Phew! The ancestral statue priest stood up and exhaled. He looked at Sun Ming Anna and said to Dustless, "This is a feud between the King of Red and the King of Blue. It seems to have nothing to do with you. I have big hands, and I like to meddle in other people's business, okay?" Dustless said with disdain. "Also, I want to ask if it's any of your business that I joined in?" "It's none of your business." Channa's face changed. He was already humble enough, but this guy didn't know how to treat a guest at all, and didn't take him seriously at all. Dustless pointed at Channa, his tone firm. "I like this girl, I'll take care of her, go back to where you came from." "That won't do." Channa shook his head decisively. The colorless king had threatened him that if he didn't kill Channa, Danjima Shiri's head would roll. He understood the principle of choosing the lesser of two evils, so he could only sacrifice one of them. "Channa, are you sure you want to be my enemy?" Channa's face was green, and his face was like the bottom of a pot. "If you're itching for a beating, I don't mind helping you loosen your bones." Dustless said with a smile, expressing his attitude with one sentence. "P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates." You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.